What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty. Join my Discord if you want to chat and share your thoughts, the link is in the description. 3SG Chapter 66. The sword comes, Mjolnir, that's great, I'm still worthy of you. Thor stroked the little hammer in his hand. This little guy has been with him for thousands of years, and he has had feelings for him for a long time. It's a pity that he was crushed by Hela's B****ch. He was sad for a long time because of this, and he didn't expect to meet again today. No, why is Mjolnir here with you? Ah, I knew it, you can lift it. Thor yelled. When everyone was trying to lift the hammer at the Stark building banquet, he thought he saw Mjolnir move a little bit, but when the captain said no, he thought it was his own illusion. He drank too much so that I misread it. Unexpectedly, the captain deliberately said that he couldn't lift it because he didn't want to embarrass others. It's just that the captain in front of him is the captain from Earth 1. He didn't understand what Thor was talking about. He always thought that Wong Hao could lift the hammer. After all, the first contact with Mjolnir was given to him by Wong Hao, and then Odin also said, to see if Wong Hao's will was given to him. After the New York War, he still wanted to return it to Thor, but Thor said that Wong Hao did not agree and refused with tears. Forget it, the past is the past, come on, give me back the big one, and give you the small one. Thinking about the past for a while, Thor handed Mjolnir to the captain, and then brought Stormbreaker over. Aha! The thunder roared, and a thunderbolt struck his head, and then Thor's image changed drastically. The beard and messy hair on his face were neatly combed, and he was even braided into a small braid at the chin. On his body, the baggy pajamas became shiny armor. Walk! Advertisement. The axe swung, and Thor soared into the air, taking one last look at Mjolnir. I no longer have to be carried away by the hammer. In the past, he used Mjolnir to fly in front, and he followed behind with the hammer, but Stormbreaker gave him the ability to fly freely. This is growth and a farewell to the past. Seeing Thor go up into the air, the captain scratched his head, then held up the small hammer as well, and thunder fell. Wearing a shiny armor on his body, the small hammer shook, and with a whoosh, the captain flew out. Goddess, shall we go? I feel that their other actions are unnecessary. With the strength of my god, why do we need their help? On the ground, seeing that even Dr. Banner and Hulk turned into stupid giants and jumped up, Loki looked at Xandar obsequiously and asked for instructions. One more box. Okay. Another box of ice cream was handed over, and Xandar opened it while looking at the sky. Wong Hao big brother wants to play for a while, let him play for a while, we can just watch here. Also, that glove looks very powerful, you go and get it for me. There is a cold side to Xandar's personality, but Wong Hao also likes lively, cute, and eccentric girls, so Xandar has the appearance of a girl next door in addition to the image of a goddess. The Avengers take to the skies to land on Thanos' ship, while the Infinity Gauntlet lands on the ground for Friday's safekeeping. After receiving Xandar's instruction, Loki did not hesitate, even ran over and took out the gloves from the machine. At the moment in the sky, Wong Hao, who was suffering an unprecedented violent attack, agitated his divine power. According to Haoshin's calculation, his energy quickly evaporated and absorbed all the attacks. Advertisement. Such a powerful artillery attack, even if it is just the aftermath, is enough to destroy everything on the ground under his feet. This is an interstellar fleet that battles the universe, and it is not comparable to the forces of interstellar bandits like the Chidori fleet. Ronan is the highest accuser of the Kree, equivalent to the highest military officer, and the Kree is the overlord of the universe whose power spans several galaxies, and what they dominate is as large as several galaxies. But that kind of military strength was also hindered when attacking Xandar Star, and Ronan even died on Xandar Star, which shows that Xandar Star, as a well-known free market in the universe, relies on real skills. But with such a force, Xandar, which was able to defend against the attack of the Kree Empire, was directly bloodbathed in the face of Thanos' fleet. So it is not for nothing that Thanos is called the overlord of the universe. A single salvo can directly destroy a planet. The scale of this kind of war far exceeds the imagination of humans on Earth. Fortunately, Wong Hao endured it. Although a lot of energy has been consumed, Lord Earth is still safe and sound, and all the world is peaceful. But it is not Wong Hao's style to be beaten blindly. When he saw that Thanos' starship still did not intend to cease fire, Wong Hao's eyes flashed fiercely, and the temperature of the flames around him suddenly rose, and even the space began to be blocked. The blazing heat burned and twisted. If you dare to shoot Lousy in the face, then I want to see if you can withstand my anger. The palm stretched out, and above the real sky, the wheel hung there quietly. The sun, just like in the past billions of years, seemed to sense something. Then, the sun's rays in the sky of the entire northern hemisphere converged, and the whole world fell into darkness. Only there is light above the sky here. Sword. Chapter 67. So terrifying. Once the sword is released, the Changhong pierces the sun. The shocking Changhong stretched out from the direction of the great sun, and the holy sword formed by the extreme concentration of endless rays of light suddenly fell down. Boom. The Avengers who had just lifted off didn't have time to react, only to see the surroundings suddenly dark, and then stabbed a sword like the sun. A huge starship as vast as a city could not escape disaster in front of this sword. The holy sword attack is one sword, two sections. A huge amount of transparent hole appeared in the middle of the starship, and then there was a clear cracking sound. Accompanied by explosions and flames, the huge starship slowly split open, and one left and one right were divided into two halves and fell to the ground. Scary. What? Xandar raised her small head and looked at Loki next to her. It's nothing. In order to follow my god, I was reading a novel by the flower planter recently. When I saw this sentence, I thought it was very suitable for the current situation. Loki sighs. He can also shoot down such a starship, but not in this way, this kind of domineering way. I am afraid that only his god can do it. Well, it's so terrifying. It really fits Wong Hao, big brother. Look at this sword, it's so handsome. Channer's little head was straightened, and the smile on her face was bright, like a bright moon hanging in the sky, bright and boundless. I'm so handsome, in midair, Wong Hao said seriously. The effect of this sword was better than he expected. Originally, he thought that the battleship should have opened a protective barrier, and the energy he mobilized in a hurry was equivalent to the power of a few nuclear bombs, so he wouldn't be able to shoot it down directly. But what he didn't know was that Wong Hao's move to protect the entire Avengers Alliance base like the rising sun made Thanos very angry, so he mobilized all the resources and even closed the protective shield, just to protect the entire Avengers Alliance base. Wong Hao shot down. Advertisement, and this just gave this shocking sword, Guanri Changhong, a chance to perform. One sword, two breaks. The extremely huge starship fell quickly, but its size was too large, so in the eyes of others, its falling speed was very slow. However, the thunderous noise proved that the sky-like situation was not a dream. Quickly evacuate, quick. Tony and the others shouted loudly in the communication channel. Kinetic energy is the product of mass and velocity. The mass of this starship is more than tens of millions of tons. Falling down at the speed of free fall, hitting the ground will at least feel a magnitude 5 earthquake all over the East Coast. And if they get too close, they are undoubtedly looking for death, and the aftermath of the impact is enough to exhaust the protective energy of the armor. There was no major damage in the movie, firstly because of the movie effect, and secondly, it was smashed by Captain Marvel and fell into several pieces, and the place where the battleship fell was not on land, but in the sea. The Avengers scattered like birds and beasts, but they had just evacuated, and before they went far, they saw another scene that they would never forget. The starship was shot down, and there was no target to attack him. Wong Hao had already restrained his energy, and after seeing the starship was about to fall to the ground, causing a large-scale impact, he also realized that the starship could not just fall down like this. Calculate the attack position, calculate the energy output power, the target has been marked, and the holy sword is being manufactured. At the moment, the whole world lost its sunlight and it was night, at the moment. Sword. After Haoshin's calculation, Wong Hao aimed at several positions of the starship wreckage, and all the solar energy in the world was gathered, and then turned into a holy sword and slashed out. Sword energy gallops for 30,000 miles. One sword is radiant and chills 19 continents. My sword must have a distance of 10,000 miles. Wong Hao laughed loudly. The golden holy sword pierced the sky and slashed towards Thanos' ship. One sword strike. The second sword came again. The terrifying energy tide rippled in the sky, turning into a beautiful aurora and filling the air. And in the aurora, the huge starship was cut into pieces, and under the action of gravity, deflected by the holy sword's slash, it fell neatly and precisely into the sea next to it. In an instant, the waves surged, and the water level along the surrounding coast rose several meters, submerging the embankment. Advertisement, however, the overwhelming impact of that day disappeared, and the seawater would eventually recede, while the people on land were safe and sound. It's also a god, why don't you have this ability? Rhodes was suspended in midair and asked Lebowski beside him, who gave him a blank stare, but his lips trembled for a long time, but he still couldn't say anything. He can also kill a space battleship with an axe, but this is a mothership, and the battleship he can kill is equivalent to an egg laid by this thing, which is equivalent to an aircraft on an aircraft carrier. How big is his axe? The muzzle of any cannon in this thing can make him walk around in it. Is he able to cut it? If you want him to chop, you must at least give him an axe that can become 10,000 meters long. However, they are all divided into pieces, so have they been resolved? Someone in the channel asked. Although this interstellar battleship was shot down, the key is the people inside. Are the people inside still alive? And it seems that there is no need to think too much about it. Soon, on the display panel in front of them, images of creatures marked as enemies appeared on the coast. And this amount is a bit much, because Wong Hao's slash is relatively neat, and Thanos' ship is too large, so that there is a lot of space that is not damaged, and the cabin where the combatants are and the place where various fighters and combat weapons are parked become a part of it. The falling of blocks. In the end, there are still a large number of people who survived. After all, this battleship is too big, equivalent to the file size of a large city, and it is still three-dimensional. After all, only a battleship of this size can be called an interstellar mothership and can undertake the task of interstellar warfare. Looks like it's our turn to make a move. Chapter 68, Hero Thanos. The Avengers looked dignified, and then a dozen figures flew towards the coast together. In the seawater, fighter planes flew out of the water, and figures emerged from the shadows one by one. Boom! The surface of the water broke, and a figure leapt high, then landed heavily on the ground. The tall figure, purple skin, and those fierce eyes are none other than Thanos. And at the moment, his eyes were all focused on the sky, on that unusually conspicuous, but incomparably stalwart figure. Owner, Corvus Glaive appeared right behind Thanos. They also looked a little embarrassed, but more frightened and fearful. They ran rampant in the universe, and the powerful warship that dominated one side was cut off by a breakthrough by a single person. The sword formed by the gathering brilliance of the sky is bound to become an indelible nightmare in their hearts. Mobilize all the surviving troops to attack me. Fight with them, disperse in all directions, and attack the city over there. I don't believe that he even attacked his own people this time. As the wolf that ruthless people fear, Thanos quickly made a judgment. Well, aren't you trying to protect civilians? Don't you want to save the world, save the universe? Then give it a try and see if you kill faster or my people kill faster. The troops that hurriedly climbed out of the water quickly dispersed, and the Avengers were surprised to find that, except for a small part that went towards the Avengers' base, the troops that had fought them in Wakanda began to disperse as soon as they appeared run. No, they are going to the city. The trajectory of the action was quickly calculated, and the satellite also captured the traces of Thanos' men on the edge of the nearby city. Advertisement, damn it, there are too many, we don't have time to defend. In New York, Chidori's main target is the Avengers, and they can only come out of the wormhole. In Wakanda, there are protective barriers, there are border defenses, and civilians are also safe in the rear. But now, the enemy broke into pieces and directly entered the city not far from them. Some even invaded directly from the bottom of the water, so how do they defend? But before they finished speaking, they saw the light reappear, and the sun in the sky became shining again, attracting everyone's attention. Hey Ocean, start counting all targets, use all energy to create defense and pursuit, and make sure to intercept every enemy. Thanos' petty tricks are dirty, and that's because he's not a fighter for glory, it's because he's a victorious hero. In order to win, Cao Cao asked his subordinates to use human corpses as rations, and Thanos didn't mind using civilians to draw Wang Hao's attention. Do it. All arrows are fired. Countless sharp arrows of light fell from the sky, precisely hitting every Thanos army that was trying to break into the city, or had already broken into the city. Under Haoshin's incomparable computing power, supported by Wang Hao's majestic and boundless divine power, a scene that can only be seen as a dream by ordinary people is being staged. With a big hand closing, all enemies will be wiped out in the blink of an eye. Those who run in all directions cannot escape. Those who charge bravely cannot break through. Thanos thought that such means would be enough to stop Wang Hao, but he underestimated Wang Hao, the power of a great god. God is not some powerful high-level life form, God is God. Advertisement and the glory of the sun god shines on this land, and shines on everyone who is bathed in the sun and laments the beauty and hope of life. On the ground, the battle has also begun. The silos of the legions are just to attract Wang Hao's attention and distract him. And to achieve this goal is for Thanos to quickly approach the building, approach the already collected Infinity Gauntlet, infinite gems. Just give him access to the infinite gems and he'll be able to fulfill his mission, complete his quest, end this universe and start a new, hopeful world. Boom. Shocking thunder descended from the sky, holding Stormbreaker in hand. Thor roared and slashed Huashan Mountain with a simple and direct force, that is, raised the axe above his head with both hands, and then slashed forward. What? As the attack was approaching, Thanos did not rush, raised the machete with the paddle in his hand and headed upstream, hitting the sky with a blaze of fire. Boom. Thor flew upside down in response, and the thunder blazed out, causing all the generals around Thanos to be in a trance, and Thanos' knees gave way, and he half knelt on the ground. But he stands in the way. The machete that can even chop the captain's shield is really something. Although it doesn't have the power of the storm, it can still withstand it in terms of its hardness. Keep running, leave me alone, bring me the infinite gems. Thanos gave instructions to the left and right, General Obsidian nodded, and rushed forward together, while Thanos put on his helmet, and then looked fiercely at Thor who got up again, Tony who fell from the sky, and Earth 2 who surrounded him. Avengers Alliance everyone. You guys, you are stubborn, but you told me one thing. No matter how random the people I kill are, there will always be people who will miss them. So this time, I will directly destroy this universe and create a new one. Better one. Chapter 69 1 against 3. The oar and machete flew up, and Thanos didn't intend to listen to the nonsense of the crowd, so he slashed directly. The blood blade flew, and Thor roared and waved Stormbreaker again to meet him. In the past 5 years, what Thanos did has tortured him every moment and kept him awake at night. Now he finally has the opportunity to ask for everything from him again. Beside him, old Tony's nano armor began to change, becoming taller, full of edges and corners, full of aggressiveness, looking like a little titan. It's just that he didn't rush up, but various weapons appeared from various parts of his body. There were a lot of muzzles of various guns, and the sound of energy storage kept coming and going. Boom boom boom. The sound of artillery fire and thunder rang together, and the battle situation entered a fever right from the beginning. Thanos has the Avengers of Earth 2 to deal with, and Obsidian 4 also has his own opponents. The captain took the lead. Wearing armor, he held a hammer and landed with the power of thunder. Although Thor on Earth 1 did not have a hammer, he was still a powerful god originally, just like in his third movie. Can even overwhelm the Hulk in hand-to-hand combat. The appearance of the two was just the beginning, and then Hulk, Hawkeye, Black Panther and others all appeared and stopped them. Kaylin Tay, you go and deal with those miscellaneous fish, they leave them to us to deal with. Seeing the soldiers who were constantly running towards the Avengers base, the captain issued a combat order, and the same was true for Thanos in front, leaving only the big three, and the rest left to deal with the miscellaneous soldiers who were still emerging around. Soldier against soldier, king against king, General Obsidian 4 quickly found his opponent, and everyone fell into a fierce battle. You took everything from me. Thor roared and slashed out with an axe, thunderbursts, but Thanos dodged it for a moment, and then fought back. A set of smooth 3-in-a-row cuts forced Thor back half a step. Thanos took the time to glance at the furious Thor, and vaguely felt that he was very similar to the guy who cut off his head that he saw in Nebula's memory file. Picture. I don't know you at all. Advertisement. The sword was faster than the thunder, and Thanos charged forward, and he soon realized that Thor with the Stormbreaker was his greatest threat and strongest opponent. So he made a decisive decision and let go of the defense behind him. Relying on the hard armor and powerful Titan body, Thanos forced Tony and the old captain who put on the nano armor to bombard him continuously. Then, under the astonished eyes of the two, Thanos endured the pain in his body, and with the power of this bombardment, he rushed to Thor at an even faster speed. The big knife slashed down rapidly, several times in succession. Thor couldn't bear it and was directly shaken, and then Thanos picked the tip of the knife, and Stormbreaker came out of Thor's hand. Then came Thanos' murderous and domineering blow. Not good. Thanos has armor attached to his body. Although his Titan body is powerful, it is not really indestructible. Technology has developed the power that can be used in the universe to the extreme. As long as there is enough firepower, even a god can knock you down. So Thanos had been dodging and blocking Tony's artillery attacks in the battle before, but what they didn't expect was that Thanos would be so decisive, suddenly give up defense, and exchange some injuries for Thor's lore. Stormbreaker was picked up, and Thor's body didn't have time to react. With this knife cut, the answer to the question of whether the god in Tony and others' hearts will die will be revealed. And Thor looked at the machete that was slashed to the head, and thought of its strength that could compete with Stormbreaker, and also expected his own ending. He had stretched out his hand as hard as he could to recall the tomahawk, but the speed at which the tomahawk flew back obviously couldn't keep up with the speed at which Thanos chopped it down. At this moment, he almost shouted in his heart that my life is over. Boom. However, Thanos' knife did not cut down. A dazzling flame swept from the corner of the battlefield, and the blazing life gushed out like a fountain, pushing the figure as fast as lightning. In the nick of time, a body inserted sideways, knocked Thanos away abruptly, and saved Thor from a certain death situation. Advertisement, Loki. Thor, who escaped from the dead, still had blood on his face, and he looked at the person who rescued him in disbelief. You're welcome, brother, although you are not from the same universe, but your image has made me like you so much, so I decided to save your life. Standing in front of Thor, Loki with short red hair ignited a fiery flame in his hands, and the violent and unstable power of the flame began to emerge from all over his body. One more will have no effect. However, seeing Loki who broke into the battle group, Thanos glanced at the scorched black on the armor, and said without changing his face. Really? Then maybe you made the wrong idea, not one, but two. The cool moonlight appeared at some point, covering Thanos inside. Thanos was startled, and just about to look up, he found that his body was unable to move at some point. A beautiful figure slowly fell from the sky and appeared in front of Thanos. The sudden change in Thanos' eyes was not because of Channer's beauty, he couldn't notice Channer's appearance at all under the influence of magic. What he noticed was that in Channer's hand, the Infinity Gauntlet was being constantly tossed by her, as if it was a very interesting toy. You guy, you are ugly, and you like to kill people indiscriminately. You are so noisy. Why can't you be quiet and let us sit down and have a good talk? Channer tilted her head, her beautiful eyes stared at Thanos in front of her, Chang's nose wrinkled slightly, and she hummed cutely. Then she smiled and picked out a green gemstone from the glove, and clenched it tightly in her hand. The energy surged, and even Channer's eyes were stained with green. Degenerate. Chapter 70. Whispering Technique. As if realizing something, Thanos roared when the bright girl appeared in front of him. No. But this obviously doesn't help. Thanos conforms to all the symbols of a great villain, and his image and performance after his appearance really makes Channer feel unfavorable. So, after picking out the green gemstone, Channer gave Thanos a whimper. The mysterious power of time acts on Thanos' body. Although he is struggling hard, infinite gems is what he has been trying to pursue. If its power is not stronger than him, does he still need to pursue it? The scars on the skin are fading, the skin is smoother, and the physical strength is more vigorous, but at the same time, Thanos' experience, Thanos' knowledge, and all the things that Thanos has gained in the accumulation of time are disappearing. That's right, the humming technique cast by Channer doesn't just affect the body. This spell is more like bringing different stages of the dead from the long river of time to the present, rather than simply changing the body. The effect of the spell continued. Thanos' smooth and tight skin began to tighten and become tender, his bones began to shrink, the closed seams reopened, his strength was diminishing, and his figure was slowly shrinking. The gigantic Titan, the overlord of the battlefield, returns to his teenage years. Oh. The Avengers looked at Thanos' hands that had begun to become immature and weak, and there was finally a look of surprise in their eyes. They watched helplessly as the purple sweet potato, who was somewhat taller than Hulk, became smaller and smaller, from a prime of life to a young man, then to a teenager and a juvenile, and finally turned into a miniature little purple sweet potato. It turned into a purple Titan baby with the same ugly face. This is definitely not because of the shrinking function of the PIM particles they used on Thanos, but because of the power of time. Beep. Yin-Yang Technique, a spell that directly degenerates you into a baby. Advertisement, Great Queen, under your moonlight, even the overlord of the universe will surrender. Loki bowed his head and complimented Channer, who was calm, making her face show a smug look. And the giants of the Avengers Alliance on Earth too looked at Thanos, a baby with a naked buttocks on the ground, with a word clearly written on his face, bewildered. Is this solved? Tony and the captain exchanged glances, then looked at Thor, who got up from the ground, his face covered in dust and blood. By the way, why didn't Strange use this move back then? We fought so hard, wouldn't it be over if he just used this move? Tony couldn't help complaining. Time gem is so powerful, if Strange used it like this on Titan, how could there be so many things later? Although I don't know what your situation was like at the time, but he should have obtained a lot of gems at that time, right? Space gem, reality gem, all have enough power to offset the influence of time gem, and you think anyone can use this power solidified? This is the great queen of heaven, moon god. How can strange compare her divine power? The number one Luna below Loki looked at Tony with contempt, but it was indeed as he said, if you use other infinite gems in your body, dealing with this kind of time power is not as difficult as imagined. Definitely, the most important thing is that, different people use it. The birth of Xandar almost exhausted Wang Hao's reserved wish power, and the last one to enjoy this kind of treatment was Haoshan, Wang Hao's god self-personality. Then Wang Hao shared a lot of divine power and authority with Xandar. In terms of strength, Xandar was not inferior to Thor, the heir to the king of the gods. Loki only got part of the power of Wang Hao's flame law, while Xandar's powers include light, domination, time and space, stars, yin, occult and so on. In time, Xandar can grow into a god king who is not inferior to Odin, Zeus, and Ra. And unlike Thor who inherited Odin's power to become a god king, Xandar grew up by himself. From this point of view, Xandar's potential is still higher than Thor's. Thank you. Advertisement. The captain bowed slightly towards Xandar. She was the same as Wang Hao. There was no need to help them. Wang Hao saved their lives by resisting the gun salvo this time, and Xandar's attack also saved their life. They must thank Wang Hao in the future, but it doesn't mean they don't need to thank Xandar now. Then what do we do now? I didn't say much thanks. The timing is not right now. Looking at the baby Thanos on the ground, the big three looked at each other in blank dismay. Just kill it. Although it's a bit inhumane, it's a good way. Anyway, the International Human Rights Association has been wiped out by him with a snap of his fingers, and no one will care about it. But the question is what to do with the chaos around. Once Thanos is dead, they're even more unrestrained, and this is bound to be a protracted battle. Wang Hao stopped most of the people rushing towards the city, but there were still many who did not rush towards the city. And none of them can be handled by the Earth Army. The Avengers can't stop doing nothing and play hide and seek with those people outside every day, right? Let Wang Hao deal with them, and I'm too embarrassed to speak up. I'm bothering them so much and I still ask them for help. How shameless. So this is another long game. And the best way to do that right now is to have Thanos surrender and have him order all alien armies to surrender. I think we're turning him back, but in a manageable state. Teenager? No, teenagers are rebellious, and they're in trouble if they'd rather die than surrender. What about old age? The three giants looked at each other, and then nodded together. Chapter 71. Return of the Emperor. Hello, the elderly. He has experienced vicissitudes. He knows how to advance and retreat, understands gains and losses, and is easy to understand current affairs. His strength has also weakened. It is enough for us to control him. When the time comes, an order will be given, and the war will be won without fighting. After some discussion, the big three all nodded in affirmation of this plan. In their view, even a god king like Odin will become weak and unbearable under the power of time. No matter how strong Thanos is, once he gets old, his strength will definitely drop a lot. If they join forces again at that time, Thanos, who was difficult to deal with before, will naturally not be their opponent. In fact, the best solution was to Wang Hao. Thanos, the biggest threat, was restrained by them, and those stragglers seem to be controlled by Wang Hao. The scattered miscellaneous soldiers can be cleared up. But they don't want to bother Wang Hao all the time. Unlike the Avengers of Earth 1, the Avengers of this world have experienced so much, they have seen ups and downs, and they have come all the way by themselves, and they have not been influenced by Wang Hao like the Avengers of Earth 1 so deep. Second, using the Infinity Gauntlet has side effects. They've seen Thanos, a guy who hammers them, snap his fingers twice before he's almost gone. It is already very, very troublesome for Wang Hao to snap his fingers to bring back the disappearing person. After all, in their opinion, this matter has nothing to do with Wang Hao from the beginning to the end. He is a cosmic god, and has nothing to do with human beings or life in the universe. Thanos should eat and drink whether he snaps his fingers or not. One needs to be content. Each of them is an elite, an existence at the pinnacle, so they naturally know the consequences of lack of greed. For example, the current May government and Hydra on Earth 1 provoked Wang Hao for a while because of their cheap hands, and they are almost wiped out. Those people who ordered it at the beginning didn't need Wang Hao to do it themselves. After the arrest, they were directly made into Momo, just to vent their anger on Wang Hao. And they naturally don't want their insatiable greed to make Wang Hao angry. They really count on Wang Hao for everything. They just hang up here. Then it will be a big problem if Wang Hao doesn't even snap his fingers for them at that time. Dear lady, can I trouble you to turn him into an old man? The war here can't end with him like this. Advertisement. After the discussion, the captain, as the spokesman, came to Xandar and asked respectfully. No problem, just look at mine. Xandar smiled and replied. Xandar can understand the captain's request, and she agrees with these people's ideas. They can take the initiative to share the worries of Wang Hao over there. To Xandar, they're considered sensible and sensible. So Xandar naturally wouldn't refuse this request. So she held the time gem again, and activated its power again. But what she didn't know was that it was because of this action that she was pressed on the leg by Wang Hao and spanked several times that night. As time passed, the most magical and mysterious power in the world began to operate, and it landed on the purple ignorant baby on the ground. In the rapid growth of the power of time, children, teenagers, youth, adults and then old age, Thanos spent his life in a few seconds, and a purple sweet potato with white beard and hair appeared in front of everyone in front of. What the hell? In the sky, Wang Hao, who was still using Haoshan to clear up the alien legions everywhere, suddenly frowned. An extremely powerful aura appeared on the battlefield under his feet. This aura was so powerful that his heart skipped a beat. Although he knew that this was not the arrival of some cosmic god, but this level of power has far surpassed Odin's heavenly fathers, god-kings. Sweeping his gaze, everything on the field entered his eyes. Wang Hao quickly saw Channer holding an infinity gauntlet and a time gem, and then the guy standing not far in front of her. Waterfa. Emperor Thanos. The figure moved slightly, and the photon teleportation was activated. Wang Hao appeared beside Channer in the blink of an eye. However, a tall figure also appeared at the same time. Boom. Advertisement. The two palms intersected, and the terrifying shockwave spread, as if a mushroom had been planted, and the entire battlefield was suddenly silent, and then the impact of the energy tide caused everyone to lose control. Damn it. With a wave of his palm, protecting Channer behind his back, Wang Hao quickly snatched a few gems from the aftermath, but unfortunately, 3 gems fell into the opposite one with white beard and hair, who looked like I'm getting old. Don't touch me again and I'll lie down in Thanos' hand. Just as soon as they fought, the shockwave produced by the collision of the two smashed the infinity gauntlet into a Momo. After all, this is an inferior version made of nano armor, not Uru metal made of the same material as the small hammer heffing storm battle axe, the real infinity gauntlet. Looking around again, the big 3 were on the ground, they were the closest, and this round of impact was equivalent to being bombarded by a mushroom bomb. However, Thor's body was strong enough to withstand it, and Tony's armor was in combat mode and barely survived. The captain carried the shield and withstood the main frontal impact, and the rest of the energy was absorbed by the armor. So from Wang Hao's perception, the 3 people's breath of life is quite strong, and they just can't die. But the key to the question now is not whether they will die or not, but whether this Emperor Thanos will die or not. Emperor Thanos. I used to read comics, except for the one with the heart of the universe, which was regarded as a personal unlimited cheat, and the best record of purple sweet potato essence is probably the one with Emperor Thanos. Wang Hao thought to himself, as for what record? After slaughtering the universe and killing the entire Earth, there is only one Ghost Rider left among the countless superheroes, and in the end, because he was convinced by his power, he became his #1 pony. Does that count? Destroying half of life in the universe with infinite gems is not ruthless enough, but killing the entire universe with your own fists is ruthless. And this is the Emperor Thanos. Everyone else is becoming more and more useless as they get older. Only this purple sweet potato essence has ushered in the peak of life after old age. Chapter 72 Infinity War. Is it the power of time gem? Looking at the green gemstone in his hand, Wang Hao quickly understood the ins and outs of the matter. Thanos is of the eternal family, so he will not age, and his current appearance looks old, but in fact his physical strength will not be weakened because of this, and his physical strength is still at its peak. The biggest effect of time on him is not to make him weak, but to make him extremely powerful. Knowledge, wisdom, skills, everything, he has reached the peak. He was originally a genius, the most outstanding scientist on Titan, but now, he should be the most outstanding scientist in the entire universe. Maybe there are also magician, warrior, and various other miscellaneous titles. Basically, the pinnacle that a life can reach without transcending its own universe is the current state of Thanos. This is why Wang Hao can sense his strength. Thanos has great potential. The Eternals can call themselves Protoss, and Thanos is a different kind among the Eternals. His ability amazed everyone in the same race. Even in his prime, he has power beyond Thor and knowledge ahead of Loki. In fact, his age is much younger than these two genuine Protoss. So it is conceivable that as long as it grows normally, Thanos will inevitably become a powerful existence comparable to Odin. Go to the side first. Wang Hao turned his head and whispered. Afterwards, the palms were clenched tightly, and the power of space transmitted, sending Channer far away. And in his hand, he also holds a time-space gem and a soul gem. But Thanos grabs the reality, mind, and power stones just in the nick of time. 3 gems versus 3 gems, regardless of personal strength. This battle is troublesome, but only a moment later Wang Hao laughed. Trouble? It's the trouble that makes the most sense. If he gets crushed with a single shot, then what's the point? It's been so long, and it's hard to meet an opponent who is worthy of a shot and has a comparable level. It's time to loosen your muscles and bones. Advertisement in Wang Hao's change didn't cause even the slightest turmoil in Thanos' expression. A guy who slaughtered the entire universe, what else can make him feel turbulent? The battle is over. It was Wang Hao who made the first move. In terms of fighting skills, he must be inferior to this old purple potato who has lived and fought for who knows how long. As for the fighting skills he knows, the most practical one is to strike first. Space twist. Even without the infinity gauntlet, both Wang Hao and Thanos can freely use the power of infinite gems. In an instant, the invisible spatial blade suddenly appeared beside Thanos and then crossed it. But nothing cuts through. The sharp blade that can cut everything still touches the things that can't be cut. Illusory. Thanos' body twisted like a dream, the ether penetrated his body, and he unleashed the power of TIE particles. He disappeared and turned into a virtual existence. Since he didn't exist, he couldn't be chopped up. You still have the golden body, don't you? This state is exactly the same as opening a statuette in a certain game. Can't be selected, can't be attacked, definitely can't be attacked, and can't make attacks. Interesting. The corner of Wang Hao's mouth raised, time fluctuated, countless Wang Hao walked out of his body, and then a full 60 Wang Hao formed a circle, surrounding Thanos in the middle. In 1 minute, 60 seconds, one time remnant in each second, the skills learned from the Flash are used in this moment. Sword. 60 holy swords driven by the divine power in Wang Hao's own body slashed at Thanos. This sword is enough to cut the entire Earth in half, and its power is like opening up the world. However, the purple radiance dyed Thanos' whole body, and with one punch, his strength increased by 100 million times. Boom! A singularity was created in the void, and the entire American continent turned into nothingness. This time, not to mention the big three, everyone in the two Avengers alliances died. But in the next second, time is reversed, the Earth is intact, tens of billions of lives are intact, and everything returns to the moment before the attack. Advertisement. It appears that Wong Hao saved the world, but it was actually his attack that was once again neutralized by Thanos. Reality against space, strength against time, what the hell, Soul Gem has no attack power. Wong Hao cursed secretly, Soul Gem is the most special infinite gem, but it also caused it to have no attack assistance at all. But it's not useless, Soul Gem guards the soul, Thanos can't use Mind Gem to attack him. But not to me, not to others. Wong Hao swept his gaze, and all the surviving beings on the ground and outside the Avengers Alliance base stood up, with a strange light in their eyes, and then rushed towards Wong Hao. Get out of here! Wong Hao yelled, and the space twisted for a while, pulling Thanos to send him away, away from the Earth, away from this starfield. However, when the power of the reality gem was activated, Thanos' figure fell into nothingness and became non-existent. Since it does not exist, it cannot be selected, and it cannot be attacked. But this is in Wong Hao's calculation. Although Thanos opened the golden body, it does not mean that the same is true for the Earth. In the blink of an eye, the Earth, no, the whole solar system disappeared from the current space position, and the whole Orion arm of the Milky Way disappeared, and it appeared in another corner of the universe. Now you can fight freely. Seeing Thanos whose golden body ended, Wong Hao smiled, and the three gems merged into his body, and then with a big wave of his hand, a fixed star tens of thousands of light years away suddenly moved over. Come, please taste what it means to burn the sky. Huge amounts of fixed star crushed it head on, and under Wong Hao's control, endless energy filled this space. Haoshin quickly calculated the variable value of the space quantity, while Wong Hao displayed his ability wantonly. Touching fixed star for the first time, but unfortunately, this fixed star is about to explode. I want to see how much energy you have to squander. The reason why infinite gems need 6 together to be nearly invincible is that they complement each other. Thanos has the power gem and the reality gem and seems to be invincible. No matter whether it is physical or magical power, it is impossible to harm him, but the whole fixed star hits him. How much energy support is needed to turn it into an illusion woolen cloth? Fixed star is not enough. What about supernova? Blast me. Chapter 73 Supernova, the most terrifying cosmic object. Who said black holes are the scariest objects in the universe? The person who said this must have never seen a supernova. If the sun of the Earth releases all the energy it has released in 10 billion years in just a few weeks or even a few days and seconds, what kind of terrifying scene will it be? The most shining celestial body in the universe is not a fixed star, but a supernova. To use all one's own in exchange for a moment of brilliance, this is the glory of a supernova, and it is also the ultimate horror that any spaceship sailing in the universe can't avoid. Black hole, as long as you don't provoke it, as long as you don't get close to its narrow range, then you will be fine. After all, a black hole will only absorb and close to its own matter. If there is no matter close to it, it will not say where it is going to fly, but stay there quietly and enjoy its own time. If black holes are really so terrible, where will there be stars shining in the universe? The center of every galaxy is almost a black hole, but the incomparably huge gravitational force has a limit in scope of action. If you can swallow it again, won't it be over if I don't get close to you? But a supernova is an explosion, an unleashing, a glorious bloom, a burst of energy that is almost impossible to avoid once you discover it. The matter erupted at the speed of light throws everything in a fixed star far away, and the range of radiation is simply not comparable to the gravity of a black hole. So Wong Hao is very curious, how will Thanos resist this kind of offensive now? Under his control, this still young fixed star has already started to collapse from its inner core, just like a boxer starting to accumulate strength, just waiting for that fatal punch to strike. And Thanos can't escape at all. This space has been locked by him. Maybe Thanos has learned magic, has special technology, and many of them have space jumping skills. But now it's unavailable. Advertisement he can only bear this kind of attack here. And such an attack Wong Hao can come again many times, causing a fixed star to explode is as easy as cutting off a hair of his own. But how long can the golden body of Thanos survive the supernova, the most terrifying energy explosion in the universe? In just a few minutes, the fixed star began to disintegrate, and then, the blazing flame turned into a streamer and flew into the distance. Supernova exploded. At the same time, in the distant space, a spacecraft shrouded in strange matter is rapidly approaching the original position of the solar system. This time it's its turn. The stars turn to become food for the great planet devourer. There are still 3 jump lengths to reach the Chiwu fixed star system. The intelligence system on the spaceship reminded its owner, but soon, it sent out another reminder. Warning, a supernova explosion has been detected, and it is recommended to avoid it immediately. Warning, a supernova explosion has been detected. Titan sitting on the chair suddenly sat up straight, and then looked at the screen in front of him in disbelief. That fixed star, I remember it has a lifespan of 5 billion years, how could it explode? The great planet devourer Garland, he came to the Earth once hundreds of years ago, and he knows the situation of the solar system very well, but how could there be a supernova explosion here? But in any case, even if he is one of the creation gods and the ultimate existence of the universe, it would be a very unwise choice to insist on the power of a supernova explosion, which would consume a lot of energy that he already lacks. Retreat, retreat for me. The spaceship that had just approached the periphery of the original solar system immediately turned around and began to jump in time and space, and as soon as it left, the shockwave of the supernova explosion had spread here, destroying everything along the way. Not knowing that his wave of operations directly scared away a certain god of creation who never had enough to eat and was always beaten, Wang Hao's attention was still on Thanos. Advertisement at the moment of the eruption, the purple light was already on. Facing the overwhelming impact of energy and matter, Thanos immediately chose to use the effect of the power gem to defend. But soon he found that it was a waste of life. The power that the power gem can erupt depends on the power it can provide, so the combination of the power gem and the space gem can make it physically invincible. Obviously, Thanos cannot provide more energy than a fixed star can provide. This does not conform to the conservation of mass and energy. Even if all the molecules in Thanos' body are undergoing nuclear fusion, its scale is at most equivalent to the sum of the energy released by fixed star in a day. The quality of both is there, so Thanos immediately changed methods. TIE particles can warp reality, altering the reality of creation, definitely, this reality including the bearer himself. An ingenious energy circuit that transforms one's body into a physique that can absorb any energy, even impact kinetic energy. Then use the absorbed power to drive the power gem to form a defense. A weird egg has survived a supernova storm. In this kind of environment, only Wang Hao can survive safely. No life, no god can be as comfortable as him in the most extreme environment in the universe. Someone actually withstood the pressure and survived. But this move didn't take much effort from Wang Hao, at most he lit a cannonball. So at this time he still has extra strength, and naturally he won't simply watch Thanos get through this crisis. Chapter 74 The battle continues. Capture light energy, capture fixed star energy, capture special substances, weapon synthesis, start attacking. The supernova explosion is a range attack, so Wang Hao will provide some targeted attacks. With the support of such abundant energy, Hoshin was operating at full power, the surrounding energy was mobilized and absorbed by him, and then began to condense into an attack. What kind of holy sword, holy knife, that's how many there are. If a sword at 10,000 miles is not enough, then it will be 30,000 miles, and if a machete at 40 meters cannot cut it, then it will be 400,000 meters. Thanos, who formed a strange energy circuit, was suddenly attacked by Wang Hao, and suddenly, the original balance was broken. A body that can absorb damage from the range of a supernova explosion is not enough to absorb Hoshin's intensive bombardment. It's like when a boulder that has been washed away by the water for countless years in the center of the river is still standing. When it is compressed into a bunch of high-pressure water jets, the result is that it can't last for a second. That's pretty much the case with Thanos. Almost instantly, the balance between Thanos and the energy frenzy of the outside world was broken, and as if sensing that something was wrong, Thanos made a decisive decision and triggered another explosion in the biggest explosion in the universe. FK. Wang Hao's eyes were dull, and then he quickly moved his body and began to avoid it. This guy Thanos actually detonated the power gem. And this law gem that condenses countless secret energies in the universe and integrates various forces explodes. Its power, at least in this narrow range, is much more terrifying than a supernova explosion. So much so that Wang Hao, who was able to relax in the energy frenzy of the supernova, felt his scalp tingling and could only retreat temporarily. After a long time, when everything disappeared, even the release of the supernova had ended in this part, the figure of Wang Hao reappeared in this space. Then he wandered in the star shell after the supernova explosion, looking for traces of Thanos. Because it is the release of all matter and energy, there is nothing left of a supernova after the explosion. Only a relic called a star shell shows that it once happened. Advertisement. Definitely, at the moment energy is still erupting, destroying everything, but the core has already begun to loosen, revealing gaps. If Thanos was still alive, he would definitely be there. Sure enough, in this place full of light, the omniscient Wang Hao soon saw a hunched figure lingering in the energy gap in the energy tide. Then, Wang Hao appeared. Wang Hao, who seemed to have no mess at the corners of his clothes, compared with Thanos, whose body was completely undressed, and his indestructible skin had become riddled with holes. The contrast between the two was very obvious. The outcome seems to be very obvious. I have never met an opponent as powerful as you. Me too. Wang Hao gave Thanos a thumbs up. As expected of the purple sweet potato essence, this combat power, any other person, let alone a supernova, can resist Wang Hao's holy sword. Although it uses the power of infinite gems, being able to activate 3 infinite gems at the same time is enough to surpass the universe. How to say that sentence, isn't acknowledging the strength of the opponent affirming the strength of oneself. So Wang Hao is not stingy with bragging about Thanos. After all, it will appear that he who defeated him is even more awesome. But after the likes are over, the result will not change. Wang Hao has no intention of keeping his hand. Enough talking, you should be on your way. Before Thanos could continue talking, Wang Hao mobilized his energy again, and the holy sword descended, pressing on Thanos' head with unparalleled power. But this time, he has no power gems to resist. Seemingly realizing that the outcome would not change if he fought hard, Thanos suddenly made a bold choice when he could barely hold on. You want my life? Then come. Looking at Wang Hao standing in front of him, Thanos shouted loudly. Advertisement. Then, The reality was rewritten, the holy sword descended, and the power that could destroy the world was oppressed, but the structure of Thanos' body changed in that instant. The power of the holy sword was completely absorbed into Thanos' body. But he didn't explode. The attack that was enough to physically wipe out a planet didn't blow him up or crush him. Instead, change him. He changed his physical structure in that split second, and the mind-link mind gem made it still alive. Then, all the infinite power is directed to one point. A point compressed to the extreme, containing all matter and energy. Black hole. Yes, Thanos turned himself into a black hole. A black hole that represents the end of the universe, the end of everything. Because of this, he devoured Wong Hao's holy sword, but that's not all. This is the relic after a supernova explosion, filled with a lot of energy, and this is undoubtedly the best place for him to grow up. Suddenly, the continuously erupting energy tide began to reverse. The matter ejected from the original fixed star core to the surrounding space was distorted by gravity and began to change direction. Under the gravitational force of the black hole, which tends to be infinite, the matter and energy of the supernova are constantly approaching the black hole. The battle is still going on. Chapter 75 Supreme Power. You are a wolf. Watching this astonishing scene, Wong Hao also had to admire Thanos' decisiveness. In that case, he is already in a situation where he has no life but death. Even if he has the strength far surpassing the level Godfather, he cannot withstand the bombing of the supernova. But abandoning the flesh, abandoning one's own essence, this is also something that most people cannot do. The problem is, he was right. With the reality gem's ability to distort reality, and the mind gem's effect, he has become the only black hole in the universe with life consciousness. The point is, he is still growing rapidly. What does it take for a black hole to grow? Energy. Devour. And where is this? This is the scene of a supernova explosion, and every inch of space here is filled with countless energies. Black hole. It's good to be your home. Suddenly, Wong Hao chuckled. The black hole is indeed indestructible, because all your attacks will be turned into the accumulation of his growth. But what if you can't grow up? Time flows. Wong Hao clasped his hands tightly. The space linked by the space gem supplied almost infinite energy, while the time gem was fully activated. Time stands still, and although the black hole Thanos shakes his body out of this restraint, he has no way to absorb any energy around him. Because the flow of energy stands still as time stands still. Recover. The green energy that spread hundreds of millions of miles away shrank suddenly. However, this fixed star that just exploded, the newly born supernova began to flow back at the same speed in an instant, and returned to the fixed star shining in the universe. I'll let you swallow. Arms crossed, Wong Hao looked at Thanos proudly. The supernova explosion caused a surging cosmic energy tide, but if the supernova explosion reversed and returned to fixed star, in this stable cosmic space, what else would this black hole absorb? And if he can't devour any energy, can't absorb anything, how can he grow? Definitely, it is impossible that nothing and any energy cannot be absorbed in the universe, but how slow is the growth time of normal black holes? Advertisement. Not to mention that Wong Hao can completely clear out a space that is wide enough to place the black hole, exile him into a space that only has himself, and isolate the area where the black hole is located forever. Under the power of time, the fixed star that was pulled over by Wong Hao returned to its original state as if nothing had happened. Then, like Wong Hao's palm, the fixed star returned to its space in the universe. The starlight from the distant universe projected over, and then distorted in front of Thanos, indicating his existence, but soon, he couldn't even enjoy the starlight. Hand over infinite gems, and I'll give you a treat. Turning into a black hole made Wong Hao have nothing to do with him for a while. But that doesn't mean Thanos is really stuck. There is nothing so easy. Wong Hao has a lot of time to spend with him, and Thanos, who was isolated by Wong Hao, can only maintain this state forever. So Thanos just put himself on reprieve, but damn it. A figure appeared in front of Wong Hao. It was the former old Emperor Thanos. He hunched over, as if he was really on the verge of death, but Wong Hao naturally would not forget that the aftermath of his slap against himself turned Thor, who was holding Stormbreaker, over. This is the projection of his mind. His body cannot speak, so he can only communicate with Wong Hao in this way. You win. That is required. Wong Hao smiled slightly. Thanos. Dull voice sounded in Wong Hao's mind. I used to believe that I was the destiny. I randomly wiped out half of the life in the universe, thinking that in exchange for the balance and normal development of the universe. But I was wrong. Wong Hao knew that this was Thanos, who had passed his life quickly after time accelerated, not the guy who hadn't snapped his fingers yet. Time gem is not a growth hormone, but a file reader, which reads files from the time it records. Therefore, the Eden apple will be restored out of thin air. Instead of missing a piece, the piece that entered the person's stomach is missing. The same goes for Thanos, who was recorded in the future and then extracted to the present. Including the fixed star just now, a lot of its energy was swallowed by Thanos, but now it has recovered without losing even a little bit. This Thanos has really passed through thousands of years. What he said is true, what he realized after thousands of years after he destroyed the Earth and wiped out half of the life in the universe with the Infinity Gauntlet. Advertisement. In less than 1,000 years, the universe has returned to its original form, with prosperous life, scarce resources, constant wars, and constant death. Thanos looked up, his old face full of pain. I thought I didn't kill enough, so I dispatched again. In 10 million years, I wiped out all life in the entire universe. Watching the stars shine, I think this will evolve in a normal direction. Best opportunity. Then you find that without life, the universe seems to have no meaning. All lives were killed. Such a feat, Wang Hao just thought about it anyway. It's not impossible, he can do it much faster than Thanos, and a burst of energy tides from all the fixed stars surrounded by planets is enough to wipe out 99% of the life in the universe. This is his basic ability. But it can be done, no need. He is not a murderous maniac, nor is he a member of the Balance sect. He must work hard to maintain the balance of the development of the universe. And over there Thanos is still beeping. Yes, without life, the universe seems to have lost its meaning of existence. What is the meaning of existence for the stars in the sky and the prosperity of eternity? The voice became lower and lower, and the figure in front of him became weaker and weaker. Two strange gemstones appeared in Wang Hao's vision for him to pick. Destroyed your own consciousness. Emperor Thanos appeared suddenly, and passed away suddenly, but the results were actually of little consequence. If it was the previous Thanos, Wang Hao's shot would be sure, and he would be knocked down in minutes. And becoming Emperor Thanos just added a little more trouble to him. However, there is a huge difference in the nature of the two. No matter how powerful the Emperor Thanos is, he can only surpass the level of the Heavenly Father God King, but it is still elusive to reach the level of Wang Hao. So after getting the infinite gems, he just persisted for a while. If it is in existence at the same level as Wang Hao's supernova explosion alone can survive, and it is almost impossible to get injured by using infinite gems. Therefore, in Wang Hao's view, all this is both unexpected and reasonable. Thanos must die, but he didn't expect to commit suicide. Time was reversed, the purple light returned and reunited, and the power gem that exploded before appeared in Wang Hao's hand. Collect all 6 infinite gems. Chapter 76 Praise the Sun. There is no need for the infinity gauntlet to integrate their power, Wang Hao can use himself as a medium to connect the power of these 6 gems. And immediately he felt something different. As the combination of the ultimate mysteries of the 6 universes originally like this. Time, space, power, reality, mind and soul, the 6 forces are integrated into one. Wang Hao's consciousness is constantly rising, stepping into a higher level, a level that can change the entire universe with just a snap of his fingers. Eternal, infinite. The power of time and space is intertwined, forming the basis of the entire universe. As far as Wang Hao can see, 2 abstract humanoid creatures stand in front of him. Sun God, a man whose body contained countless galaxies, as if the universe existed in his body, spoke. Beside him, the woman whose body was made up of countless lines, representing the eternity of time, bowed slightly, expressing respect for her own equal existence. These are the 2 gods who created the world. Their bodies belong to the universe, which is the abstract eternity of time, and the woman whose body is composed of countless lines, representing the passage of time and forming the river of time, is the abstract infinity of space. It's time for Thanos' farce to end. The 3 supreme gods in the universe nodded to each other, and then eternity and infinity disappeared before Wang Hao's eyes. Yes, farce, in the face of the real supreme being, Thanos' actions are just a farce. It is a farce in which a titan suddenly feels that he has discovered some natural mission, and then wants to maintain the peace of the universe and ensure the balanced development of the universe. Definitely, he did find a way. The power gathered by infinite gems is enough to make eternal infinity obey and have to do things according to his will. But compared to the breadth of their lives worthy of their names, all this is just a laugh. Slap. Advertisement. With the sound of snapping fingers, invisible fluctuations spread to the entire universe, and the solar system returned to its original position in an instant, continuing to revolve around the center of the Milky Way. And the lost half of the lives in the universe are also returning at this moment, returning to the position they should be in. On Earth at this moment, after Wang Hao and Thanos have left one after another, the battle here is still going on, but the Avengers who have freed up their hands have taken the initiative, pressing the Obsidian Four to the ground to fight. But suddenly, General Obsidian surrounded by them seemed to sense something, and then looked into the distance with fear. Master failed. Invincible, the generation of hero Thanos who dominated the universe has come to an end. In the face of a god more powerful than himself, the age of Thanos has ended sadly. Afterwards, the 4 of them turned into ashes and passed away in the wind. Seeing this horrifying scene, the Avengers from Earth 1 were puzzled, not knowing what happened. However, when the Avengers of Earth 2 discovered that not only the 4 generals of Obsidian, but also the scattered soldiers of the Thanos Legion began to turn into ashes, their faces suddenly showed joy. It's the power of the Infinity Gauntlet. This is a familiar scene, except that it was their people who disappeared last time, but this time, it was Thanos' people, and Thanos' people disappeared. Does this mean that their people have returned? Listen, it's the chirping of birds. The dusty captain patted Tony on the shoulder. It wasn't just humans that disappeared that day, half of all life in the universe disappeared, and the concept of this life included all plants and animals. All the birds, animals, and fish on the earth have been reduced by half, which is much more terrifying than the disappearance of human beings. At least the number of human beings 100 years ago was less than half of what it is now, but the total number of living things on the earth has been about the same number for millions of years. This triggered the collapse and reconstruction of the entire Earth's ecological circle. The large-scale reduction of forests alone has plunged the entire Earth's ecosystem into a great crisis. Advertisement. However, it all came back. Friday, can you hear me? Boss, I'm here. Satellite search, worldwide, no, major cities will do. Tony's hands trembled, and then, high-definition satellite images appeared on the projection screen in his hand. In major cities around the world, the empty streets suddenly became crowded, and noisy. These words that have been far away from this planet in the past 5 years have reappeared. Woo. Lebowski nodded and covered his mouth, looking at the screen in front of him, speechless with excitement. It's been 5 years, how did they come here in these 5 years? But in the end, it is hard work and rewards, after all, it is spring with a dead tree. Praise the sun. Dr. Hulk roared, then smiled at Hulk next to him. This is what his brother taught him, and the members of the Earth Sun Church next door say it every day to show their gratitude to Wong Hao. And now, they are going to say the same thing. Praise the sun. The captain put down the shield, with a smile on his face, all the Avengers gathered around, laughed with him, and praised the sun together. Chapter 77 Surprised Andy looks like this. When Wong Hao came back from the sky, he was greeted by a group of Avengers who bowed and thanked him. Not only that, but as all the past returned, one after another portals opened. The Guardians of Galaxy far away on Titan, the members of the Avengers far away in Wakanda, and the Asgards in New Asgard, all of them gathered together to express their highest thanks to Wong Hao. By the way, good people do their best to send Buddha to the West. I don't think there will be a chance to come next time, so just do them one last favor. Seeing everyone's joy, Wong Hao doesn't mind being a good person one more time. Ocean, collect information in the universe, target, Natasha Romanoff, Gamora. Wong Hao brought back all the lives lost that day with a snap of his fingers, but there were 2 other people who couldn't be saved even with a snap of his fingers. Gamora and Natasha Romanoff. As the sacrifices of Soul Gem, they can only live in the world of Soul Gem. This is an exchange, the price for gaining power. Just because he couldn't get it back with snapping fingers doesn't mean Wong Hao couldn't help it. With the movement of Hao Apocalypse, the life information about Gamora and Natasha Romanoff stored in the universe is being collected rapidly. Especially with the assistance of infinite gems, this process was shortened extremely quickly, and then in the eyes of all the Avengers, 2 clusters of light appeared in Wong Hao's hands. Life-body reconstruction, soul formation, memory generation is complete. Like the birth of Ch'nur, Wong Hao is creating life. Indeed, the sacrificed Natasha Romanoff and Gamora can't come back, so let's create a new one. The power of wish lies in its omnipotence, especially in the point of creating life, which is more convenient than Wong Hao and death, the gods who control the power of life. In essence, these 2 are brand new beings, not the original Natasha Romanoff and Gamora, but from the inside to the outside, every point of them is exactly the same as the original body. The souls generated by the will are even exactly the same as their souls, let alone their bodies. Advertisement. Therefore, under the surprised eyes of everyone, 2 familiar figures stepped out of the light and appeared in front of them. Xana. Dr. Hulk screamed, and the Ronin Hawkeye had just finished talking on the phone with his family, and when he saw Natasha Romanoff reappearing in the world, he rushed up excitedly. Gamora. And over there, Xingyan and the others looked at the very familiar face, and they couldn't help being equally excited. Xingju's lips trembled, and he walked forward with tears in his eyes. As a cyborg, Xingyan couldn't shed tears, but the change in his eyes was still obvious. I feel like we're here to make soy sauce. The joy of reunion was staged again, and the Avengers who came to the Earth to help punched each other while happily watching the Avengers who were similar to themselves hug each other and sighed, while complaining. Don't say that, you have been a great help, definitely, your greatest help has been to bring us a god. Tony from Earth 2 patted his other self on the shoulder and joked. By the way, why don't you go to my house? I'll take you to see my daughter Morgan. By the way, you and Pepper have to work hard. On the captain's side, the captain of Earth 2 pulled himself and spoke to him seriously. Bucky's still on the run, but he's on the verge of regaining consciousness. It's just that the effects of Hydra on his mind are still there and need to be dealt with. Each has its own account, and each has its own words to say. After confirming that all the soldiers of the Thanos Legion scattered around have been wiped out, the Avengers who welcomed the return of Natasha Romanoff and Gamora finally couldn't help but start celebrating. The world outside is in chaos, someone who disappeared for 5 years reappears, no one knows why, and the saviors have a banquet in the Avengers base. With the help of the magician team led by Strange and Wong, all kinds of drinks and food were quickly delivered to the base. We were celebrating before we came. The Avengers of Earth 1 said with a smile that they had just won the New York War a week before coming here, but compared to this time, the New York battle seemed a bit unsatisfactory. Advertisement. In fact, Chidori, who appeared in the New York War, was only a miscellaneous unit among the legions that appeared this time, not even a vanguard. Naturally, the scale of the celebration this time is also much larger than before, with more people, a more spacious place, and more lively. After celebrating for a long time, everyone was almost drunk, a streamer fell from the sky, and everyone was surprised by her beautiful figure and valiant spirit. But after seeing who was coming, the Avengers of Earth 2 immediately laughed. Hey, Carol, just in time, there's a party going on here. The person who came was naturally Captain Marvel, who rushed back from a distant galaxy after getting the news, but this time there was no highlight moment for her, and when she came back, the enemy had already been dealt with. Well, square face, although it looks very heroic, but is it heroic? Seeing Carol Danvers appearing, Wong Hao rubbed his chin and looked it up, and finally decided that this was definitely not his taste. It can't be said to be ugly, and it even has a different charm, but that has to be viewed from a special perspective. Just imagine, a person who was created to please female boxers and flaunt the equality of men and women will meet the oval face, small waist, and long legs that most male compatriots like in appearance. More importantly, Carol's strong aura made her lose the biggest advantage of being a woman. Gentle. Hundreds of steelmaking can't resist the softness of the fingers. This Carol is handsome enough, but the beauty is different. Anyway, it is definitely not as beautiful as Chan or Mei. Looking at Chen'er who was snuggling up against him in his arms, Wang Hao gnawed on her smooth forehead, and then opened his mouth to eat the fruit she handed over. Chapter 78 Trivia on Earth. I didn't stay on Earth too for long. The main reason is that the world is very busy now, and those who were beaten back by Wang Hao's snapping fingers urgently need to be dealt with. The world has changed a lot in the past 5 years. Some partners who died found new partners, and some people who did not disappear also passed away in the 5 years, no matter because of martyrdom or other reasons. So there are actually quite a lot of remaining problems. In other words, the whole world currently looks more like a mess, with countless troubles. Those who survived 5 years ago are fine, they have the mood to accept everything. For them, it is a great blessing for those who lost to come back. But it's different for those who disappeared, because for them, the so-called 5 years just ended when they closed their eyes. Can you accept that your wife remarried after you woke up from sleep? Or did you wake up and your company changed bosses? Some of the more tragic ones, no matter whether they are men or women, when they were just resurrected, their husband or wife was doing that with her new partner. So Wang Hao and Chen'er don't feel very good about this world. Although the vast majority of people have the most sincere gratitude to him, even a festival has been unified around the world. Divine Grace Day. In the past, due to the relationship between different cultures, human beings around the world did not have a truly unified holiday, not to mention Christmas or Spring Festival, but Teacher's Day, Labor Day, or Mother's Day and Father's Day. Many countries and nations can't do it. But from now on, all human beings on the earth finally have a common festival that belongs to all of them. Divine Grace Day. By the grace of the Sun God, half of them were born again on this day. On this day, all the people on earth have agreed to praise the sun, various great activities to praise the sun, and various celebrations related to the sun will be held all over the world on this day. But this is something to say later, even though Wang Hao feels that these people are very caring and worthy of his helping hand, the current Earth 2 still makes him have no intention of staying any longer. So, after only staying on Earth 2 for a few days, Wang Hao took everyone from Earth 1 back. After he came back, in order to pass the time, he built a huge amounts of floating island over the Pacific Ocean without stopping. Definitely, it is said to be an island, but it actually occupies a huge area. The cornerstone material of the main body is cut from a small planet that Wang Hao pulled directly from space. One can imagine its size. Advertisement. The anti-gravity device operates stably, powered by solar energy, and the second-generation reactor produced by Stark is used for backup energy. The construction of the temple is completed, the magic dome is formed, and the surrounding weather is fixed as sunny. The defense system is activated. The defensive means are force field shields, space distortion traps, the counter means are miniature solar flares, and the Holy Sword of Judgment. Under Ocean's control, a floating island was quickly formed from scratch. The island is picturesque, with waterfalls, artificial lakes, mountains, plains, and valleys. A series of magical lines connect the entire island together. Through the absorbed solar energy, a brand new light energy technology is used on the island, making people seem to live in a dream world. And this place named Sun Island has officially become the home of Wang Hao and Chen'er. It has become a holy place for countless believers of the Sun God sect. Wang Hao and Chen'er, together with the maids and Saintess Anna reside here, and below this island is a ring-shaped island made up of the rest of the small planet, which is about the same size as Sun Island. There is the Holy Church and the headquarters of the church controlled by Luo Cheng, and there is also a small town responsible for foreign affairs, where diplomatic officials from various countries are stationed. And doing all this is to establish their own order. Belongs to the order of the Sun God. When the island was completed, Sun Island settled on Earth, and the Sun God no longer wandered around, and the Earth was formally included under Wang Hao's wings. Naturally, human beings on the Earth must abide by the order established by Wang Hao. On the day of the settlement, Nick Fury, who used bloody methods, successfully controlled the remnants of the US government, and then he surrendered to the Legion on behalf of the government. Since the European Reformation in the Middle Ages, modern society has once again ushered in the baptism of God. With the approval of the Sun God, Nick Fury succeeded the president of Mio, and began to coordinate the forces of various states with the help of the church to govern the country. Theocracy seems to overwhelm human rights once again. For a time, everyone in the world was in danger. In the Middle Ages, people got rid of the shackles of a certain church because they found that it was a false god, but now that the true God has come, how do they let their people choose to support themselves instead of the Sun God who can give believers eternal life and happiness? There is no way to do it. Advertisement. But they soon discovered that their worries were unfounded. Mei Guo's changes have been subtle and silent, but to the outside world, countries have found that this seems to be a good thing. When this old hooligan no longer used the name of the world's police to cause disasters everywhere, when the world's largest arms dealer and the biggest behind-the-scenes man started to really uphold justice. The world seems to be getting better. The welfare of the people is created by the people themselves, and the technological progress brought about by the appearance of aliens has filled a large number of labor vacancies. The aerospace industry and the basic industry require a large number of various human resources to provide a solid foundation for social stability. Under the leadership of Mei Guo, all countries in the world will develop steadily, make progress and prosperity together, and then unite and unify. But that was a long time later. After Wang Hao got Nick Fury's surrender, in addition to asking the church to help him eradicate those rebels, Wang Hao also let people start to attack. The liquidation of Hydra does not mean that all the people who dared to scheme against him were liquidated, it was just the biggest part. The rest of the people are so involved, many of them can't even touch Nick Fury. The World Security Council can spend hundreds of billions to raise a shield every year, and that amount of money is enough to support the entire US military. With such huge funds and various technical and personnel support, the composition of the Security Council is naturally Hand-Eye Tongtian. But they absolutely shouldn't, they met the sky. Hand-Eye Tongtian does not mean that they can really compete with the sky. When they usually deal with ordinary people, they only need to give an order and there are people who will help them do things. And now, Wang Hao only needs to give an order, and the loyal Templars will send them to the throne. Tell me, what should I do about this? On the throne, Wang Hao looked like he didn't care. It would be too easy for him to take the lives of these people, but that would lose a lot of fun. Chapter 79 People Who Are Afraid of the Sun. On the throne, Wang Hao looked down. And under his feet, dozens of them were dressed in suits, glamorously dressed, are noble and elegant, the so-called upper class, the top dignitaries all looked terrified. Many of them were brought in by Templars who forcibly broke into their parties or homes before they even knew it. God wants to see them. With just this sentence, no one dares to say no. God, there is only one God on earth today. Sun God. Moreover, the Templars belong directly to Hans the Envoy, and Hans the Envoy could directly communicate with the Sun God. No one would think that this was a joke. No one could pretend to be the power of the Templar, and even if they could, no one would dare. Because that is provoking the power of the Sun God, a true God that exists in reality. If you dare to offend him, no one in the world can save you. So they all appeared here in unison, even though they were in the fortress, even if they were protected by a well-trained team, they could only appear here obediently. Face their worst fears, the Sun. You don't really think that you are innocent, do you? Or do some of you think that people outside are ecstatic when they see me, but instead of seeing me, you are not happy, but you see something terrible? Is there no reason for this? Everyone looked at each other, and the more they looked, the more frightened they became, because at least half of the group of people who stood at the pinnacle of power in the whole world came here. The point is that they also know that they are playing together, or that they are a community of interests. A community of interests representing Western European and American civilization and capitalist civilization. Advertisement. In more detail, they are behind the organization that ordered the launch of the nuclear bomb. The so-called Hydra, the so-called World Security Council, the so-called big chaebol, and financial oligarchs are to some extent just their vests. As a result, they still don't understand that this is Wang Hao's settlement after the fall. Yo, no one's talking yet. You don't really think it's over by pushing everything to Hydra, do you? Well, I see you are thinking, Hydra's downfall may make some of you sleep soundly these days. No. Wang Hao's words made many people bow their heads, and even their bodies began to tremble. Some time ago, Nick Fury cleared Hydra on a large scale, which may be nothing to others, but to them, it undoubtedly removed a big stone in their hearts. Fire a mushroom bomb at Wang Hao, and Wang Hao is not dead. According to Nick Fury's shield intelligence, Wang Hao is very angry and intends to retaliate. During those few days, they couldn't sleep at night and had trouble sleeping and eating. Many people even hid directly in the underground bunkers, shielding all light sources, afraid that Wang Hao would find them. However, Wang Hao was not in a hurry to act afterwards, which gave them the illusion, coupled with the destruction of Hydra, made them mistakenly believe that Wang Hao blamed that incident on Hydra headed by Pierce. That's right, the minister of the Security Council is Pierce, and this decision must have been made by him. Moreover, the payment of Hydra has already caused heavy losses to the upper class of human society, and many senior government officials and financial oligarchs have suffered because of this. In their view, perhaps Wang Hao is out of the need for the stability of human society, so this matter is over. Therefore, they can live a life of superiority and enjoy the fun that they haven't enjoyed enough. Even if they fawn Wang Hao from now on, maybe they will be blessed with eternal life. Even if you can't live forever, you can restore your youth, or prolong your life. They are the elites of mankind, but nobles, Wang Hao can reward those ordinary people who have nothing to do with the common people to restore their youth and vitality. They are masters, how can the real nobles not be as good as those guys? As long as they please Wang Hao, as long as they support Wang Hao, then they can continue to rule the human society with the power of Wang Hao, and turn themselves into godlike existences. Advertisement. Dirty thoughts. Anna stood in front of this group of people, trembling with anger. Under the effect of holy radiance, she can clearly perceive the evil and dirty thoughts in the hearts of these people, and detect their heavy sins and embarrassment in the past. After touching the light of God, Anna always thought that there were no people without light in their hearts in this world. But now it seems that she was wrong. These people are high above the top, holding huge amounts of power and unimaginable money. They wear gold and silver but are unwilling to let their goods drop even a penny. Disrespectful. They take everything for granted, take exploitation as a responsibility, and squeeze as an obligation. They control 90% of the resources of human society, but they are unwilling to do anything for the 90% of ordinary people. Matter. Exploiter. Moth, scum of mankind. Anna insulted these people with her harshest words, while they looked at the saint blankly, not understanding why she was angry. Humph. Anna raised her jade feet and kicked heavily at an old Asian man who looked at her strangely. This guy from a certain island country has a quirk and likes to destroy girls. In his memory, Anna saw countless girls who were just in their prime ruined everything by him. This made Anna furious and kicked her out. What? After all, Anna is an envoy of God. The constant nourishment of life force not only made her body full of vitality and perfection, but also gave her a power far beyond ordinary people. With this kick, the disgusting old man bled from the corner of his mouth, and it seemed that he was going to die. Chapter 80 The Maiden Anna. Anna, you don't need to do this kind of thing yourself, just let them do it. It's too cheap for you to kill him like this. Wang Hao shook his head helplessly. The strong life force healed and revived the old man, but it only made him and the sinners here even more terrified. Can't die. So how do you torture them? No. Great sun god, I confess everything. We did it. I am guilty. I should not offend you. The Great One, please forgive me, please forgive me. A bearded man of Central Asian race constantly called out to the sun god with a strange accent, wanting to beg for forgiveness. Although very few high-level people believe in sects and gods, those things are just words they use to fool the people below, making them willing to suffer and treat them as targets of exploitation. However, when the true god appeared, he had to believe his previous words, which ultimately led to him being a strong believer. Although he did not believe in light or justice, he believed in Wang Hao. Now, his god is going to judge him, which makes him more terrified and fearful than anyone else. Unfortunately, the sins you committed can't be washed away. I have so many priesthoods. In order to let mankind go on the right path, so as not to self-destruct one day, I specifically selected the two of light and justice to publicize, but why don't you learn well? Rejecting the bearded local tyrant's plea for mercy, Wang Hao glanced around, and then sighed helplessly. Oh, it's not that I don't want to give you a chance, it's just that you are too disappointing. There are dozens of people, but none of them look like people. They are all a group of beasts in human skin. Pull them down, have a good interrogation, and make the crime public, find out their resources, and then hang up. Shrimp. That's not enough. Shrimp must also have pig heart. These people will definitely not die in a short time, even suicide is impossible, it will only increase their pain. Wang Hao wants to take everything from them, then tear off their seemingly noble masks, tear off those gorgeous clothes, and then show their dirty and ugly things to the world. They will spend the rest of their lives under the scorching fire of the gods, enduring the spurning and scolding of the world, and being roasted by Wang Hao's gods day and night. It will not hurt their bodies, but the pain that burns the soul is 100 times worse than the pain on the body. Advertisement. Die. Too easy. They have to live. This is not only a warning to the world, but also the only way for the sun god's brilliance and glory to truly cover the world. If you don't want any so-called jihad to happen in the future, then now, you have to let these people shed every drop of blood first. That's how I let them live, how merciful I am. Yes, my god, you are too merciful, they should die in endless regret. Anna stood behind Wang Hao, her small face tensed, and what she saw in the mind of that disgusting island country old man made her angry now. Okay, don't be angry, this little face won't look good anymore. Squeezing Anna's face, the latter frowned, but there was a blush on his face. My god, do you really think I'm pretty? Seeing Anna's shy and cute appearance, Wang Hao's heart moved slightly. Naturally, the Sun God sect doesn't have any rules and dogmas like a certain church. The Sun God sect pursues the future, and openness and tolerance are the future, while conservatism and staleness belong to the past. Therefore, the rules of the church are quite loose. Basically, they are 24 character mantras and core values, and there is nothing else. Naturally, Anna's clothes are not as old-fashioned as a certain church is, and she needs to wrap herself tightly. On the contrary, in order to better welcome the brilliance of the sun, Anna's clothes are quite loose and cool. Sun Island is an island. And this set of clothes basically fully reflected Anna's slim figure. The point is, except for Wang Hao, anyone outside the island will be affected by the holy brilliance when they see Anna. They only feel hazy when they see Anna, and they can't see the whole picture clearly. So it goes without saying who she is dressing like this for. You are definitely beautiful, like the light before the dawn, like the dawn that ends the darkness, dazzling, shining. Advertisement. Caressing the girl's cheek, looking at her blushing ears, Wang Hao suddenly laughed. Anna, do you want to be a goddess? Goddess. Anna's beautiful blue eyes stared at her god, with a little bewilderment in her eyes. She didn't quite understand what Wang Hao meant, but she quickly shook her head. I just want to be by your side and feel your light and warmth. And this reaction made Wang Hao even more happy. He stroked Anna's soft golden hair, looked at her face and said slowly. That's right. The life of a mortal is fragile and short. Only by becoming a god can I be by my side. Just like the moon god, are you willing to be a shining star in the sky for me? This time, Anna did not continue to hesitate, but nodded heavily. I do. It means the same thing as what I would like to do, so Wang Hao celebrates what he should do at this time. After hearing Anna's firm answer, Wang Hao laughed, then hugged her and walked towards the back of the temple amidst her shyness and expectation. Just when Wang Hao took his little saint to the apse to study how to upgrade her to a goddess, another main god of the solar god system also started his journey. After returning from Earth 2, Loki and Thor were completely unhindered. After seeing the threat of Thanos and seeing the tragedy of Asgard, the two gods who wanted to save Asgard finally came to the opposite. Thor, the deadline is up, are you ready? Chapter 81 Flame and Thunder, 1/10 for subscription. Asgard. The resplendent golden hall is located in the center of Asgard, the center of the entire floating continent, and the center of the power of the entire Asgard. But at this moment, in front of the golden hall in Asgard, there was a group of people waiting for something solemnly. Is Loki really that big of a change? It's bigger than you think, and if it wasn't for the fact that his face hasn't changed, I wouldn't think he has the slightest connection to the previous Loki. A handsome man with a sword on his waist side, and beside him was a samurai in armor and a tall and burly warrior. The three warriors of Asgard, Fandral, Hogun and Bostag. They are the powerful warriors of Asgard's long-standing reputation. They are brave and good at fighting, and they have been on the battlefield for a long time. They are Thor's closest friends and comrades in arms, and they are the most solid support on the battlefield. And they are standing here now because Thor should have brought Loki back for trial some time ago, but to everyone's surprise, Loki's appearance has changed a lot, and his strength has also become far beyond before. Moreover, Loki has also become a god of other pantheons, and Asgard has lost its jurisdiction over him, and has no right to continue to judge him. But he challenged Asgard, threatening to defeat Thor, defeat Odin, and become the ruler of the entire Asgard, the new lord of Asgard. Although he has changed a lot, I still don't believe he can beat Thor, let alone Odin. Vostag found a chicken leg out of nowhere and gnawed on it, expressing his opinion while gnawing. He is the oldest of the three, and he is also Fandral's teacher, including Thor, who he watched grow up. So he has sufficient confidence in Thor. But it is said that Odin gave Mjolnir to a mortal from Midgard. Hogun frowned. This news made their worries a little more justified. Speaking of it, Thor was also miserable. He was exiled to the earth by Odin, and finally lifted the hammer to restore his divine power, but it didn't take long before the hammer was given to someone else. Advertisement. Well, so what, even if Loki defeated Thor with his little cleverness, he can't defeat the great Odin. Vostag is still full of confidence, including the other two. When they heard Odin's name, they also showed a trace of stability in their hearts. As a god king of the pantheon, Odin indeed must possess such an ability, which can make his people and believers feel at ease when they think of him. Coming. A voice sounded from behind the three warriors. The three of them looked back and saw a beautiful goddess with black hair walking forward with a long sword in her arms. And her gaze is fixed on the front of the golden hall, the position of Bifrost. The three warriors just turned their heads away, and sure enough, Bifrost has been activated, and they are back. Vostage, wait a minute, no matter what Thor does, you are not allowed to make a move, do you understand? Sif has a serious face. Unlike the three warriors, she is a god, and she sees farther and more about certain things. In this war, no one else is allowed to intervene, and the outcome can only be decided between their brothers, even though this result may not be what many people want to see. Sif. Vostag was stunned for a moment. He looked crude, but in fact he was the real wise man among the three warriors. The long years have allowed him not only to learn fighting skills, but also to learn a lot of truths that non-soldiers need to understand. And when the three warriors and the harvest goddess Sif waited before the golden hall, in Bifrost, two figures walked out side by side. Ha! My Asgard. Loki opened his arms and looked around, looking at Heimdall, the watching palace caretaker. You've done a good job. Don't worry, when I ascend the throne, you can continue to work here. Unrestrained and reckless, Loki's posture at this moment is completely like two people compared to the forbearance and dormancy before. Advertisement. But just as annoying. If the previous Loki was a poisonous snake, now he is a flame that wants to devour the world. Turbulent, fiery, ruthless. Quote. Let's meet Odin first. Ignoring Loki's words, Thor nodded at Heimdall and walked straight outside. After having a deep talk with himself on Earth 2, the current Thor is no longer what he used to be. He can clearly see those pains and losses in his own eyes. And to protect all that, from now on he must use his own shoulders to support them, instead of counting on the old Odin. Boom. In the eternally golden sky of Asgard, the thunder resounded, making people tremble. But in the next instant, red clouds covered the sky, and fiery flames squeezed away the dark clouds, announcing their strength. Although the battle has not yet begun, the competition between the two successors has already begun. Boom. With every sound of thunder, Chinmas, the heartbeats of the three warriors also vibrated together, making their hair stand on end. But as the flame got closer and closer, they also felt thirsty, as if they were trapped in a sea of flames. So strong. Why did they become so strong just by going to Midgard? Fandral exclaimed. Whether it is Thor or Loki, they have known each other for more than 1,000 years, and they are very familiar with these two people. But why have they changed so dramatically in the short period of less than half a month? That's all for Loki. He joined other gods, gave up everything he had, rekindled the divine fire, and became Vulcan, which can be said to be a complete rebirth for the gods. But Thor even lost his hammer. Why did his power increase instead of decrease? Chapter 82 The Shameless Odin Old Thief 2/10. It seems that he taught you a lot. Walking on the avenue in front of the Golden Hall, Loki had a sneer on his face. He was quite surprised by the power Thor showed. If he had acted like this before, I am afraid that Loki, the god of trickery at that time, would really not be able to win heart. And the reason why he was able to become what he is now is naturally because he consulted Thor, who has become the king of gods and inherited Odin's divine power, on Earth too. But Odin is just a bigger ant compared to my god. The flames are burning, and Loki is firm in his belief that this is the path he has chosen to save Asgard in his own way, and in this case, he will overcome all obstacles and go on. You talk too much, and it seems that no matter what, these problems of yours have not changed. Thor didn't change his face, but the thunder in the sky became more violent, and the electric light became brighter. In the distance, the gate of the Golden Hall can already be seen, and the figures of the three warriors of Asgard and Sif also appear before the eyes, and Thor is equally firm in his belief. He will do everything possible to rewrite the history and future of Asgard in this world. Whether it's Hela or Thanos, whether it's Loki or whoever, he's going to beat them all. Only then can he protect what he holds dear, Asgard, and Earth. Golden Hall. The spacious Golden Hall is already full of people, almost the entire Asgard people gathered here, because today will decide who will become their new god king. Although long ago Odin had declared this position to be Thor's, and Thor was the heir to the king of Asgard. But Loki, who has returned now, does not hold the identity of the heir, but the conqueror. Advertisement. He came to conquer Asgard on behalf of the sun god Wang Hao. So, Odin can't refuse, and he can't make a move. After all, according to the relationship, Loki is challenging Thor. If he makes a move, does that mean Wang Hao can also make a move? That would be even worse, so even Odin can only pin all his hopes on Thor. Definitely, he wouldn't necessarily think that having Loki as king of Asgard was a bad thing. In the past, he suppressed Loki. In addition to being not his own heir, he also has Loki's psychic problems. The former Loki was a vicious strategist. He may be good at calculating, but he is not good at winning people's hearts. As a monarch, the most important thing is to win people's hearts, other talents don't matter at all. The most important thing as a monarch is to be recognized by others, and now it seems that Loki already has this condition. My god, sun god Haoshin, Asgard can choose to surrender or fight. On the main hall, facing his former robes, former friends, and former relatives, Loki did not change his face, but fixed his eyes on Odin on the throne, trying to find a trace of emotion on his face that never changed. The people of Asgard never choose to surrender. If you want to sit in this position, defeat him with strength. Odin. Beside the throne, a noble lady standing next to Odin looked anxious, but Odin's words did not intend to change, she could only watch her two children fight each other. Don't worry, Queen Mother, I will definitely defend the glory of Asgard. Thor looked back at Queen Frigg. The first news he got from his alter ego was Frigg's passing. Advertisement. Under the attack of the Dark Elves, Frigga died unfortunately, but this time he absolutely did not allow such a thing to happen. If a god can't even protect his own mother, what kind of god is he? Mom, don't worry, I will teach this arrogant reckless man a good lesson, and show this blind old man what a stupid decision he has made. He actually entrusted the future of Asgard to this kind of person. Loki, who also learned of Frigga's future, has a confident face. Like Thor, he will not allow that future to continue to happen. Definitely, this time he wants to take the future of Asgard into his own hands, instead of letting this idiot continue to repeat the same mistakes. Under the watchful eyes of the people of Asgard, the battlefield moved to the square outside. Loki and Thor separated on both sides, and Odin sat on his throne, acting as referee. Wait, since you are the referee, then I have to invite my god to come. Looking at the tall Odin, Luigi suddenly said with his hand. After the words fell, following Loki's chanting, the sunlight shining on the golden roof of Asgard gradually condensed and manifested, then transformed into a human figure, and finally revealed the appearance of Wang Hao. Sun God. Odin sat on his seat and nodded distantly, but there was already some complicated meaning in his gaze towards Wang Hao. On the one hand, the appearance of Wang Hao has changed the direction of the future, and it seems that Asgard has regained its vitality, but on the other hand, the changes in Loki and the uncertain future of Asgard have made Odin feel worried. So, he made a decision. Thor, without Mjolnir, you are no longer a qualified Thor. Now I give you Stormbreaker, and you will become the storm god of Asgard. Chapter 83 Give you a small stove 3/10. I'll go. I said how did Odin agree so easily last time, so I just waited here. On Sun Island, Wang Hao, who was studying why girls' bodies are always fragrant and tender, suddenly complained. What appeared in Asgard was naturally not his real body, but just a ray of projection manipulated by Haoshin. The god under him is making a turf for himself, and this kind of thing must be supported, but he didn't expect Odin to be so shameless that he directly gave Thor a level godfather artifact. Stormbreaker, also known as Stormbreaker. It is the artifact held by Thor after he was promoted to the King of Gods. No matter whether the hammer is broken or lost, once Thor is promoted to the King of Gods, this thing will be given to him. That's why in the movie, Thor can get this thing from the Dwarf King in Nidavi, because this is what Odin pre-ordered with Dwarf. It's just that Wang Hao and Loki, including Thor, didn't expect that Odin actually gave him this thing in advance in order to support Thor. Recharge cheat. Referee, report, this person fouled. Holding Anna in his arms, and Shannur next to him, Wang Hao showed the scene of Asgard and watched the live HD live broadcast with them. No, am I the referee? Wang Hao gritted his teeth, looking a little helpless, but at this moment, after the initial shock and daze, Loki also set his sights on Wang Hao. There's no way. Thor's father paid him money to buy him, and Loki doesn't know if he can beat him, but it's definitely not easy. The power of that axe was seen by Loki when he was on Earth too. That chubby Thor possessed far more strength than this Thor in that state. Simply not too big. Not to mention features like free flight and God King power. Anyway, thinking about it, Loki felt a little bit upset. So he could only set his sights on his boss. If he had a father, he only had his boss. Advertisement. Look at my dry hair. I don't have this kind of thing. I don't need to fix it myself. Being stared at by Loki, Wang Hao was very annoyed. Why is this little brother so ignorant? Boss doesn't even use artifacts himself. Just look at me. I can make one for you right now. It seems to be able to. Wang Hao suddenly thought about it. He had imagined the operation of using the power of will to create the artifact. Now it seems that it is time to implement it. So he quickly called out Hoshin and began to calculate and design. This means that there is nothing to lose. Odin gave his cub an artifact. Wang Hao didn't give Loki a little brother, as if he was inferior to Odin. In other words, the competition has shifted from Thor and Loki to Wang Hao and Odin. Well, Loki is the god of fire. What should the god of fire use? Swords, guns, sticks, axes, forks, hooks, forks and halberds. Whips. Can't you also use the whole hammer? In fact, the hammer and Vulcan seem to match quite well. After all, in many myths, Vulcan is also the god of casting, that is, blacksmith. Well, no, the hammer is too embarrassing, it damages my image. In Wang Hao's opinion, fighting with a hammer is really ugly. A hammer is only suitable for smashing walnuts. It has the strength to smash the enemy's head with a hammer. Take a knife and chop off his dog's head, isn't it fragrant? Then get a machete. No way. Too reckless. Get a gun. It also overlaps with Odin's Gungnir, and it doesn't match Loki's magical image. Finally, after struggling for a long time, Wang Hao finally decided on his own plan. Stove. Thor over there is familiarizing himself with his new artifact, and the power of thunder is rumbling. And here, after looking pitifully at his boss, Loki, who didn't get a response, couldn't help but feel a little frustrated. Advertisement. But this competition is imperative, and he will not give up no matter what. Although they did not expect Odin to intervene so shamelessly, but until now, they can only bite the bullet. Big deal, he just loses again. Just when Loki turned his head with a little bit of disappointment, and was about to face the battle, suddenly, the sky was brightly lit, and then something flew through the air. I've given you something, take care of it yourself. $TT. Wang Hao's familiar voice rang in Loki's ear, which immediately made him overjoyed. I thought that Odin had prepared an artifact for Thor eccentrically, but his boss was also unambiguous and got one for himself. Although it took a little longer to prepare, it was given to him anyway, but he never expected that when the streamer fell in front of him, all the brilliance dissipated, and what appeared in front of him was actually a stove. And it looks very strange, with 4 corners, 3 legs, a round belly, and a small window on the front and back. Although it is not the same as the way humans use for heating that he knows, it is indeed a stove. How do you fight with just a stove? Loki imagined the scene where he held the stove and threw it at Thor. It was so beautiful that he didn't dare to think about it. If he thought about it too much, he might just cast it directly. Wang Hao naturally saw Loki's doubts. Indeed, the artifact he refined, or the magic weapon, is not the same as Loki's painting style, but this is based on the image of the most powerful artifact and magic weapon in his mind. Refined. Anyway, when he used to read novels, those who used stoves and cauldrons were the most powerful, and those who used the same level usually had clocks, mirrors, etc., and those who used swords were not very good, generally they could only play a little bro. Besides, Loki is the god of Vulcan, wouldn't it be appropriate to use a stove? As for how to fight with this stove, Wang Hao has to teach him how to fight. Cough. This furnace is called Good Fortune Oven. With the real fire of the sun, and the real fire of the sun is the core, the 3 talents of heaven, earth and man as firewood, it has the ability to turn decay into magic, remove the chaff and save the essence, and refine everything. Own it, you can refine all substances, and you can also control all the flames in the universe. There are also 4 elephant fire beasts in the oven, with infinite power. While talking, Wang Hao also showed Loki a short video of how Angel using the creation oven. In the video, a small planet with a diameter of tens of kilometers was devoured by 4 fire beasts, and the overwhelming flames wrapped it up and refined it. After a while, what was spit out was only the size of a nail shell, but after the small planet was refined, the material in it is extremely hard, possessing all sorts of miraculous abilities. Chapter 84 Charcoal Grilled Thor, 4/10. Thank you, my god. Looking at the small stove in his hand, Loki knew that besides the refinement function, it also had the feature of shrinking and zooming in. There was an independent space in his body, which was extremely wide. Wang Hao even directly stuffed a small fixed star into it to act as a furnace. Energy. But looking at the mighty and domineering Stormbreaker in Thor's hand, and then at the Shogun's small and exquisite fortune-telling oven in his hand, Loki couldn't help but look a little downcast. Feeling cheated. But no matter what, this battle has to be fought. This furnace looks unreliable, but it is a magic weapon, and the scene of refining a small planet in the video is indeed not bad, so let's fight. Ignoring the laughter of the crowd outside, 433, in the plaza, Loki took out the creation oven and watched it grow up against the wind and land on the field. Do it, Loki yelled, and then his divine power surged, urging the power of the oven, and over there, Thor finally suppressed his smile after twitching the corner of his mouth a few times, and rushed up with his battle axe. Boom boom boom. There was loud thunder, and every time Thor took a step, a thunderbolt struck down from the sky and merged into his body. After a while, His body was shining with silver light, the armor was brand new, and the electric current surrounded his body, which was unparalleled in power. Loki. Beside Odin, Frigga looked at the majestic Thor, and immediately worried for Loki, but Loki wants to conquer Asgard, this battle is inevitable. But the next scene made Frigga's concern change direction in an instant. Thor leapt high, raised his battle axe above his head, and slashed towards the oven of good fortune, but Loki did not dodge or dodge, just lifted the lid of the oven that was boiling with flames, and then a red the vermilion bird formed by flames screamed and flew out, rushing straight to Thor. The blazing flame hit the oncoming Thor, and vermilion bird flapped its wings, absorbing or refining all the thunder that filled the sky, and it itself wrapped Thor completely. Advertisement. What? The thunder armor didn't play a blocking role at all, the fiery flames licked Thor's body, instantly burning his skin like fried pigskin. Although Thor tried his best to swing the battle axe, the flames seemed to be alive and refused to dissipate no matter what. In the end, it was an extremely thick bolt of lightning that fell from the sky, splitting the vermilion bird fire beast. But it only split apart, and a moment later, the vermilion bird landed on the top of the oven intact, angrily screaming towards the dark clouds in the sky. And looking at Thor again, the originally shiny silver armor became scorched black, the whole person's skin was carbonized, and the aroma of barbecue was exuding from all over his body, which made people's appetite unstoppable and salivating. Thor, on the other hand, looked angrily at Loki, and the stove in front of him. Although the other person is fine, but he is in pain. Anyone who was grilled by a stove as a well-marinated meat skewer will die on the spot. Fortunately, he can still feel the pain. But Loki looked at the stove in front of him with surprise after seeing Thor's miserable state. What a good stove. This meat is roasted. It's crispy on the outside and tender on the inside. It's plump and juicy. If you take 10 bites, you won't be able to ascend to heaven. As the god of fire and a part-time cooking god, Loki has a lot of experience in grilling meat, and Thor's big fat skewer is definitely grilled quite well. But it still lacks heat. Come again. Confident Loki shouted loudly, and then red flames ignited all over him. At the same time, the top cover of the kiln of good fortune was lifted directly, and 4 fire beasts swarmed out, circling over the square in front of the Asgard palace. Vermilion bird, Bai Fang, soaring snake, Huoki Lin, the 4 fire beasts were either running or soaring, and following their movements, the whole square suddenly became like a purgatory, and the heat was unstoppable. It's so hot. Advertisement. The blazing flames seemed to be rushing towards us. Although these flames were controlled by someone and would not really rush over, the blazing heat could not be restrained. The people of Asgard who were watching the battle retreated again and again, trying to get out of the way as much as possible, but it was still too hot, making people feel like they were in a furnace. The oven of good fortune, the heaven and the earth are the furnace, and the yin and yang are the charcoal. Wang Hao's words resounded in Loki's heart again, and this time, Loki also understood the true horror of this artifact. Unknowingly, this space has been filled with his flames, and everything in this space has become the material in his furnace for him to forge and temper. Refine. Loki spread his fingers apart, and the 4 beasts echoed each other, and then ran towards Thor together. From the outsider's point of view, only a scream was heard in the flames, and there was no more news. Thunder splashed all over the sky for a long time, but they couldn't break through the curtain wall formed by the heavy flames. In the end, even the thunder dissipated and the storm stopped. Enough. 2.6 inches. A deafening roar resounded. Odin stood up from the throne, and the holy gun of Gungnir in his hand was stuck on the ground, but the majestic god king in the past looked like an old and ordinary old man at this moment. Thor lost. Odin lowered his eyes and said these words slowly. After he said this, Wang Hao's projection opposite him also nodded along the way, and then waved his palm, and the flames in the sky began to fade, and the 4 beasts rushed to the oven of good fortune. The whole square ushered in a burst of coolness, but the hearts of the crowd watching were cold. Chapter 85. Asgard's bloody family ethics drama ends, 5/10. Thor lost. Fandral looked at the glazed ground in the middle of the square, the one lying on the ground, his whole body was scorched black, he couldn't believe that it was his comrade in arms, the person he was following. No, Odin lost. Sif shook his head and dismissed Fandral's words, even though it might have sounded more shocking to them. But it is. If there are no 2 artifacts, Thor, who has received another instruction from himself, has actually reached the level close to the God King and needs to accept the power of Odin to succeed as the new king of ASD. In other words, the outcome of the Thor-Loki match in this state is still unknown. But Odin's eccentricity and his obsession made him unable to let go, so that he had to take out Stormbreaker before starting, so that Thor had the advantage. Unexpectedly, this also gave Wang Hao a chance to intervene. In fact, Wang Hao was just planning to watch the show. It doesn't matter to him whether Loki becomes the king of Asgard. Said Wang Hao is not as good as him. Odin successfully pulled the rivalry between Loki and Thor into his rivalry with Wang Hao. Hence, Wang Hao created the creation oven and defeated Thor with its crushing power. The loser is not Thor, but Odin. Asgard is yours. Walking down from the throne, Odin came to the center of the square step by step. Looking at Thor lying on the ground, not knowing whether he was alive or dead, Odin said something to Loki with a flat face. Is that all? Seeing the figure of Odin turning around, Loki suddenly felt angry, and his voice rose so high that everyone could hear it. Advertisement. I am the king of Asgard, and this is the only attitude you have. However, in the face of Loki's aggressiveness, Odin still didn't change his face, but moved his body slightly. My dear king of Asgard, this place is yours now. Powerlessness, shame, all kinds of emotions rushed into Loki's heart, making him angry, making him mad with hatred. At this moment, even the spectators in the audience, even the fairy car owner and warrior felt that Odin's attitude was a bit too much. In any case, Loki is also his son, and the identity of his adopted son is not known to outsiders, and even if they knew, the Asgard people would not take it seriously. For example, Vostage himself adopted 2 orphans of his former comrades in arms. He completely treated them as his own children, and he would enjoy the same inheritance rights as his own children in the future. Odin has never said that Loki does not have the right to inherit the throne of God King. Before, everyone could say that he is not as good as Thor, but now he has defeated Thor head-on, and he has also shown enough command ability before, so why does Odin is this still the attitude? Just when the two were in a stalemate, a woman's figure appeared between the two, separating them. Loki, don't do this to your father. He's not my father. Loki's eyes were red, as if the flames were burning, but his eyes looking at Frigga suddenly softened again. What about me? Am I your mother? Loki wanted to say it again, but he couldn't say no. He was the god of tricks before, there was no one he couldn't deceive, and there was no beautiful thing he couldn't say. But only this woman, whose tenderness and love can always make her speechless. Take Thor down. Frigga looked at the old and the young and the 2 unconscious gentlemen, and then at the seriously injured son on the ground, and couldn't help but sighed with his hands on his forehead. Why is there so much going on at home? Advertisement. Asking the doctor to take Thor down for treatment, Frigga looked at the still stubborn father and son, probably only she could understand why Odin treated Loki like this. It's not that he is really eccentric, but the personality of the 2 children. Thor is a wild child, so he can be raised in a free range, and he can grow up safely and steadily without losing his general direction. But Loki is different. He is delicate, suspicious, and will go astray if he is not careful. This kind of child needs a lot of love and care before he can achieve anything. It's just that Odin is obviously not the kind of person who coaxes children about everything. As a god king, he needs to maintain his majesty. Whether it is external or internal, he always looks majestic and majestic. Therefore, he would choose this method to motivate Loki, use his unwillingness, and use his competitive spirit to motivate him to work hard. It's just that he may not understand that this kind of motivation has become a reaction in the end, pushing Loki to a path that confronts him in Asgard. On Sun Island, the 24K full 640 color high-definition screen plays the stories of the royal family of Asgard. The biggest 8 o'clock soap opera in history, also known as My Stupid Odudo, Big Brother Loves Me Again, successors. The 3 of Wong Hao watched with gusto, which made him think. Do you want to make it a little bit bloodier? Like letting Hela out? Then, the already abusive brother Yikyang drama will become a more bloody and entangled brother Yikyang, and then reconcile in order to fight against the ugly lady. If the last one had to sacrifice his big brother or younger brother in order to defeat the big devil, it would be even more bloody to the extreme, and Wong Hao couldn't help but get goosebumps. Hey, forget it, it's too disgusting. Let's talk about Hela in the future, and if Hela is released now, she may not be able to beat Thor or Loki. Both Thor and Loki have quasi-god king strength now, even if they are a little worse than Hela, they won't be much worse. And the 2 of them have god-level artifacts, so if they fight, Hela may really be no match. Chapter 86 Disgusting Tony Stark, 6/10. After giving up the idea of harming Odin's family, Wong Hao continued to play in the garden with his moon god and the holy maiden of the god religion. And this game lasted for more than a week. Wong Hao finally left his island after he couldn't think of any other gestures he hadn't used. After staying on Earth for almost half a year, he suddenly felt a little tired. It's not that the Earth is not fun, there are some funs that he hasn't experienced yet, but if he just stays on the Earth and plays all the things, won't he lose the novelty after that? So after thinking it over for a while, Wong Hao decided to go to the universe to have some fun first. I want to go too. Tony looked at Wong Hao eagerly, with a longing look on his face. You can't fly, and you can't survive in space. Wong Hao shrugged, expressing that he was helpless. Don't worry about this. When I exchanged data with my buddy, I got a piece of detailed information on the spaceship provided by the Guardians of Galaxy. In addition to the wreckage of the Chidori battleship recovered earlier, I already have a lot of technology, so now I can completely create a spaceship with space jump ability. Tony said triumphantly. He is naturally fond of excitement, how can he not be called to take risks in the universe? Moreover, the current situation on the Earth is turbulent. As a former arms dealer and superhero with high-end weapons, he actually doesn't like to participate in this kind of teaming. So avoiding is the best way, and it is best to wait for him to come back when the situation has stabilized. And I still have a star map. Advertisement. How can you sail in the universe without a star map? Just like the map on the Earth, navigating in the universe is more complicated. On the Earth, you are still on a plane, but in the universe, there is no distinction between up, down, left, and right, and the difficulty of navigation has increased by more than 100 times. A detailed star map is crucial for space travel. I am the Lord of the Stars, every star is my duplication and younger brother, do you think I need that kind of thing? To this, Wong Hao just smiled disdainfully. Not to mention his mastery of space power, which makes it impossible for him to get lost, but as the sun god, he is the king of all the stars in the entire universe. In terms of understanding of the universe environment, no one is better than him. Oh, please, take me with you. Tony's eyes flickered, just like Luffy's expression when he looked at Shanks and asked him to take him out to sea. A big man showed such an expression. To be honest, Wang Hao was quite disgusted when he saw it. In order to prevent him from continuing to disgust himself, he had to bite his breath. Okay, take you with me. When will your spaceship be ready? In fact, Wang Hao is mainly for this. It's too ostentatious to go out with Sun Island, and it's not much fun to play in the universe. Since it is a space voyage, it must be a spaceship. Wang Hao has been on an airplane before, but not a spaceship. It's coming soon. I have been transforming a Chidori battleship since I came back. With the technology provided by Rocket Raccoon, the first spaceship in human history is about to be completed. Advertisement. The first ship in human history, the name alone is enough to make Tony excited. And the next thing to do is the real space travel. Originally, Tony built this spaceship to take a look at the Moon and Mars. He didn't dare to go too far. Even with the star map provided by Star-Lord and the others, it would be too dangerous to leave the solar system rashly. Up. But with Wang Hao it is different. With Wang Hao around, no danger is any danger, then Tony can play a big game. So, Wang Hao waited for another week. Anyway, he was going out to play, and it was the same if there was one more person. Well, a few more people. Tony didn't forget to spread the word when transforming the spaceship, and the team quickly expanded. The first is Tony's assistant Banner. As a scientist, he can't resist the temptation to go to the depths of the universe, which in their view represents the truth. And then there's Natasha Romanoff, she's here. For some reason, Natasha Romanoff and her aunt have become good friends. Since the previous party, the two have been in constant contact, and they go shopping from time to time, just like good sisters. Wang Hao asked Channer, and her answer was that she saw the persistence and belief in Natasha Romanoff's heart, as well as her pain and fighting spirit. To some extent Zhao's Natasha Romanoff actually matches Channer's compatibility. The moon can also shine its own light in the dark, not only to become the monarch of darkness, but also to represent that many people with humble backgrounds or with unbearable pasts can still work hard for the right things. So Channer admired Natasha Romanoff very much. As for Natasha Romanoff's thoughts, Wang Hao also probed into it. Anyway, she had no bad intentions towards Wang Bai and Channer. Maybe there is something else to think about. Quote. I feel that you should stop bringing Hawkeye and the captain here and forget it. The Avengers Alliance will all be dispatched to enter the universe. In the future, if someone shoots your documentary to commemorate your former heroes, you can also list a separate chapter, Avengers Cosmic Adventure. Chapter 87 You must take a bath, 7/10. Looking at the large group of people under the spaceship, Wang Hao's face was full of helplessness. It's really that half of the Avengers Alliance ran away with me. That's no need, the three of us are enough. By the way, why did you come here? Tony shook his head, then stared at Natasha Romanoff next to him with a look of doubt and disgust. He was still very angry at the fact that this woman once ran under him to be his assistant in order to monitor him. He really thought it was his own charm that attracted her. Is this your spaceship? It's so ugly, I still like their one from Guardians of Galaxy. For Tony's disgust, Natasha Romanoff returned the disgust. But what she said was the truth. The spaceship of the Guardians of Galaxy was given to them by the Nova Corps of Xandar, and the various manufacturing techniques and matching equipment are top-notch in the universe. Tony originally modified Chidori's third-rate product, which can barely be regarded as a spaceship, with the ability of space navigation and space jumping. Other parts, such as the temperature control inside the spaceship, artificial force, etc., were all installed by Tony himself. So, Tony's spaceship looks like an egg. An irregular oval shape, and the overall color of 947 is still a vulgar golden red. It looks not only like an egg, but also an Easter egg. How many days are we going? I don't know, just go wherever you go. It's very convenient to come back if you have something to do. I have this. Wang Hao showed the space gem in his hand, and said that he took the spaceship purely to see the scenery and didn't want to walk by himself. If it is to go somewhere, he can open a portal faster than any flight device. Advertisement. Oh, then I'll save a few changes of clothes. By the way, Tony, do you have a shower up here? Pointing to the Easter egg in front of her, Natasha Romanoff asked. Being sung by the two of them, Tony's original excitement was also discounted, leaving only resentment. What about the promised crisis-ridden, exciting intense space adventure? What's the matter with the sudden change of painting style, and it became a trip that you can leave as soon as you say it? There is no place to take a shower. Water in space is very precious. Even the water we usually drink has to be recycled, excreted and then filtered into pure water. There is no room for a bath. I am not a big spaceship. Then I suggest you install one. Although I won't get dust on my body, I don't want you dangling around me with sweat all day long. As for the water problem, I'll just solve it. Wang Hao snapped his fingers, a fountain suddenly appeared in the void, transparent and pure water flowed constantly, and then disappeared without a trace before touching the ground. You are the boss, listen to you. Tony sighed again, and the picture about space travel that he had imagined in his mind had completely disappeared. With such a great god, he is just a driver. There is no danger, no lack of enjoyment, and that doesn't exist at all. It feels like going on a spring outing. Clinking and knocking, transforming the place originally used to circulate water into a bathroom, Tony let out a long sigh, feeling extremely melancholy. But complaints are nothing but complaints. After spending a day making out a bathroom and reconfirming that there are no other needs, Tony announced that he could set off. Sail. Set sail. Sitting in the driver's seat, Tony was as happy as a kid who just got a new toy, so excited he couldn't BIFD himself. And in his Wong Hao is also looking at the part that can only be seen in sci-fi movies in the past with a novel look. Advertisement. The spacecraft starts slowly, the anti-gravity engine starts to work, the flight guidance in the atmosphere starts to work, the star map opens, the tilt angle is determined, and the energy is supplied. Then, with the fiery tail flame ejected, the Easter egg roared to the sky and flew into the universe. Tony. On the ground, Pepper shouted angrily. This guy has left all his work behind and left everything to himself. It feels like he will suffer when he comes back. Wong Hao, who heard the shouts on the ground, talked to the side and everyone laughed together. It's just that their captain Tony Stark didn't care about it at all. It's over when they have fun, and as for kneeling on the washboard after returning, and not being able to go to bed, that's something after returning. Chong chong chong. Holding this belief, this spaceship, which was unanimously recognized by everyone and named Easter Egg, rushed out of the Earth and came to the outer space. The interstellar jump point beyond Earth has been reached. Guys, let's get out of the solar system. Everyone yelled, and Tony pushed the button, and the jump engine started charging. With a whoosh, the instantaneous speed of the spaceship broke through the sub-light speed directly, and entered the space wormhole. After passing through a streamer-like tunnel and unspeakable dizziness, it suddenly slowed down again. The spaceship appeared in the real universe, but the position has changed a lot from before. Vomit. Tony covered his mouth, made a retching sound, and looked behind him. Ordinary people will experience a series of side effects when they first experience space jumps, such as nausea, dizziness, and even temporary blindness, but don't worry, it will return to normal after a while. Behind Tony, everyone looked at him, as if we couldn't understand what you were talking about. What side effect? It doesn't exist at all. Only then did he realize that he seemed to be the weakest person on the spaceship. So who was he talking about just now? Chapter 88. Tony Stark is poor. 8/10. For Tony, Wong Hao and others who were hit again, they could only express sympathy, but he still took the time to ask. Where are we? Since there is a star map, Wong Hao will naturally not waste time to look it up by himself, and after hearing his inquiry, Tony seems to have finally found something he is good at. We are going to the Xandar star field where the Guardians of Galaxy are. There are 17 jump points from the Earth, and we have only passed one now. Everyone seemed to understand, and then Wong Hao asked another question. Is it like this every jump? Yes, but depending on the jumping distance, the time spent in the wormhole tunnel is also different. This made Wong Hao immediately disappointed. He thought how interesting interstellar travel is, who knew that it was just drilling around in these wormholes. Then I'll just move us to the vicinity of Xandar, so we don't have to jump around like this, which is a waste of time and boring. Hearing what Wong Hao said, everyone except Tony nodded. It is enough to experience this feeling once. They are here to travel, not to drill holes. So the minority obeys the majority, although Tony keeps saying that this is the real interstellar voyage, this is the real life in the universe. But in the end Wong Hao urged the space gem, opened a portal directly, and sent the Easter eggs into it. Advertisement. So in the blink of an eye, everyone appeared not far from a shining planet. But this time, Tony didn't beep, but looked at the planet that was obviously bigger and more prosperous than the Earth, and was full of admiration. This is the splendid civilization in the universe. Listen to Star-Lord and the others say that Xandar is the most prestigious free trade market in the entire galaxy. Look at these spaceships coming in and out, this place is simply heaven. Although it is a bit exaggerated, the prosperity of Xandar is really amazing. Comparing New York, the most prosperous city on Earth, to Xandar, it is simply a town's market, and the two are not at the same level at all. Definitely, the Earth is a living planet, and the entire planet of Xandar is a huge amounts of market, where all cosmic civilizations from the Milky Way conduct transactions, and this is why such a prosperous planet was born. Stop talking, hurry up and drive there. Wong Hao urged, and Tony also reacted, driving the spaceship to land on Xandar. But before the Easter eggs were completely close, there was a signal connected to the communication channel of the spacecraft. After changing several languages, it was finally changed to English that everyone could understand. Unknown flight device, please tell me your purpose and where you came from. This is Xandar Star Defense Nova Corps, please do not make aggressive behaviors, otherwise you will be attacked. It turned out that all spaceships coming to Xandar need to be registered. For those who come here for the first time like Wong Hao, they need to apply for a permit from Xandar's protectors and security managers, the Nova Corps. Although this is a free market, proper management is necessary to maintain a stable trading environment. So, after communicating that he and others came from the Earth and came for sightseeing, Tony drove the spaceship and landed in the airport following the guidance of the voice. I'm going to apply for a pass, you go to play first, don't worry about me. Advertisement. Tony, who recognized his identity as a thug and a coolie, said very consciously, and then Wong Hao and the others were naturally not polite, and left the port directly, heading for the largest city on Xandar. Ask for flowers. By the way, do you have any currency on this planet? Walking halfway, Tony's communication message suddenly came. What's the matter? Tony Stark is short of money too. Wong Hao suddenly laughed, and the people around him also laughed when they heard what he said. Tony Stark, who is poor and only has money left, suddenly asks someone for money. This is simply an anecdote through the ages. Then what can I do? This is not the Earth, my money is useless here. I didn't even think about this question, otherwise I would have asked Xingju in the first place. 0. Standing at the pass office of the Nova Corps, Tony looked annoyed. There must be no US dollars here, and even if they did, he didn't bring them with him. He never took money with him when he went out. With his face, no one would be unwilling to give him credit. Anyway, someone from the Stark group would come to his door the next day to handle the accounts. This also caused him to come to the Nova Corps now, but he couldn't afford the parking fee. Yes, the spaceship needs to pay a fee to park at the port, and this fee is linked to the pass. If you don't pay, then the pass will not be issued. Without a pass, the spaceship may be confiscated. Not to mention, if there is a conflict with others here, the Nova Corps will not protect your rights. My son God, I beg you, if you have a way, bring me some money. To be honest, I have never felt that kind of poor-looking eyes in my life. I am so angry. Quote. I have always despised others as being poor, and the person who smashed money with ability is called dad. Now, it is a good thing, when I came to the universe, and came to an alien planet, I was despised by others, and the reason was that he couldn't afford the money here. Chapter 89. Hand-rubbing old iron, the father of good fortune, 9/10. Okay, wait a moment. In the middle of the road, Wang Hao and the others were overjoyed to hear it, but they laughed. Tony is playing the ball now, and he is the representative of the Earthlings. If he loses face, it means embarrassing the Earthlings. Hence, Wang Hao decided to fulfill Tony's little wish. I saw Wang Hao standing in the middle of the road, clasping his hands, as if he was holding a ball. With his movements, the surrounding air, the water in the nearby fountain, and the dust on the ground were all moving towards him quickly. Palms gathered. Analyze the demand, determine the output power, boost the pressure, increase the temperature, reach the fusion critical point, and start the synthesis material. The 640 position of fixed star in the universe is very important. One of the reasons is that fixed star is the source of all kinds of matter in the universe. Nuclear fission is a process in which a particle is split into lower-level particles after being hit by another particle at high speed, and then releases energy. Nuclear fusion, on the other hand, is a process in which hydrogen isotopes are continuously aggregated under high temperature and pressure, changing from the simplest structure of one proton and one electron to more complex and high-level particles. And this process also generates a lot of energy. But in fact, the real key is synthesis. At the beginning of the universe, all particles were in the most primitive state, protons, neutrons and electrons, and later they squeezed each other to form atoms, such as hydrogen atoms and helium atoms. But the problem is that when the universe evolves to a certain extent, the effect of gravitation reaches the limit, so that higher-level matter cannot be born. There were only two elements in the universe at that stage, 3/4 hydrogen and 1/4 helium. But at this time, fixed star was born. Countless hydrogen atoms gather together, they interact and collide with each other, thus producing nuclear fusion, the first ray of light in the universe. The first ray of light is produced. Advertisement. Numerous fixed stars light up the universe, and their inner cores are undergoing intense nuclear fusion, and higher-level substances are constantly produced in the process of fusion. The periodic table of elements starts from helium and goes all the way to iron. So many elements are fusion generated in the core of fixed star. Then, as fixed star stepped into its own end, under the explosion of the supernova, all the matter was thrown out, and then flew to every corner of the universe. At the moment of the explosion of the supernova, countless substances were aggregated again, and all the elements after iron were born. But in the final analysis, the source of daily cuts is still fixed star. In other words, all kinds of complex substances in the universe today, such as metals, are all conceived by fixed star. And this is also the most special meaning of fixed star for this universe. It is the origin of matter, the mother of all creation. No, it's the father of creation. While rubbing the big fireball in his hand, Wang Hao explained to the people around him. That means you can synthesize any matter in the universe? Asked Natasha Romanoff, raising her hand. In theory, it is indeed possible, and he can even synthesize substances that have not been discovered by humans and are not recorded on the periodic table of elements. Definitely, the premise is that he can create the same contraction pressure as a supernova explosion. Banner stared at the fireball in Wang Hao's palm. For a physicist like him, watching the mystery of the birth of the universe was tantamount to a pilgrimage for him. As for whether he can create a supernova explosion, Shou Hao said that it is absolutely no problem. Looking forward to you veterans, rub your hands with gold. At the same time, in the headquarters of the Nova Legion on Xandar, the intelligent program that is in charge of the power distribution of the Novas, the heart of the world, is frantically warning. Advertisement. Warning, warning, found traces of supernova explosions, found destructive energy fluctuation data. The restlessness of the heart of the world shocked the people of the Nova Corps. For thousands of years, the heart of the world has never issued an early warning message of this level. As a result, several Star Centurions who stayed behind at the headquarters were all dispatched, and quickly flew towards the position given by the heart of the world. Strange, traces of a supernova explosion, in Xandar. Is the planet under our feet going to explode? Even if the Xandar star is going to explode, it cannot be supernova-level power. It is enough to annihilate the entire fixed star system, and the power is enough to radiate tens of thousands of light-years away. Moreover, the location given by the heart of the world is not this star, not the planet, but the city. Another Centurion retorted, could it be that the opponent has a weapon that can rival the power of a supernova explosion? But is it possible? They have seen a lot of weapons that can destroy planets, but this is the limit of the development of cosmic weapons. After all, according to the law of energy conservation, if you want to destroy fixed star, the energy source must be comparable to fixed star. The difficulty of destroying a fixed star is not at the same level as detonating the core of the planet. 1.2. But now, the energy fluctuation that appears as a supernova explosion, and once it happens, it is very likely to affect the power of tens of thousands of light years. If this kind of thing is really a weapon, who would dare to use it? Can I run away by myself? Wang Hao, who didn't know that he caused another disturbance, didn't know what Xingxing Centurion was thinking. If he knew, he would definitely reply. Not only can I run, but I can even run after you die. Now he is just trying to compress the fireball in his hand, watching the core matter evolve little by little in Hoshin's calculation. Iron, copper, zinc, silver, tin, tungsten, gold. Chapter 90. This gold lump is round and big. 10 out of 10. Please subscribe. In terms of valuables on Earth, that is, gold, silver and jewelry, the most valuable are naturally diamonds. But this actually has to do with two things. One is that the current human technology is not developed enough to manufacture diamonds on a large scale, and the second is the hype of jewelry groups. Are diamonds worth money? Beautiful things are definitely worth money, but in essence, diamonds are as good as glass. Glass is made of silicon fired at high temperature, while diamond is formed of carbon under high temperature and pressure. To put it bluntly, they are just some kind of compound, and the raw materials are silicon and carbon, which can be found everywhere. Therefore, diamonds were highly touted at the beginning, but with the development of technology and people's recognition of the essence of diamonds, this kind of pursuit has become weaker. 18. It's just that the jewelry group is unwilling. For this reason, they use various methods to speculate on the meaning of diamonds, such as what a diamond is forever, and the true love will last forever. Connect diamonds with love and marriage, and come up with such a gimmick that a man can only buy one in his own store in his life to show his love and loyalty. Therefore, diamonds, which are not much higher than glass, have finally become top luxury goods, the dream of countless girls. But the real precious thing is actually only gold. Gold is a heavy metal, and its position on the periodic table of elements is far behind iron. Fixed star can only synthesize iron, and substances beyond that require supernova explosions to be able to synthesize. Therefore, even in the entire universe, gold is an absolute rare metal. Moreover, gold also has good physical properties, which plays a key role in the electronics industry and the manufacture of high-end instruments. So even in the universe, even if the scope of trade has expanded to the entire galaxy, or even other galaxies, gold can still be used as a universal currency. Kneading constantly, compressing constantly, under extreme high temperature and high pressure, the atomic structure is destroyed and then reorganized. Advertisement. Following Wang Hao's actions, a lump of huge amounts of gold nuggets was born in the flames. Call. Chanur opened her mouth slightly, and exhaled a cold breath, which landed on the hot liquid gold. The gold liquid solidified quickly, turning into a lump of gold, shining brightly under the sunlight of Xandar. Wow! There were exclamations of exclamation one after another around the road. Even on Xandar, it is not just anyone who can pull out such a big lump of gold. Many people just saw Wang Hao making balls there, but due to energy shielding, they didn't know that what Wang Hao held was a massive supernova explosion-level energy body. In fact, if it is not shielded, not to mention the Xandar star, the surrounding stars may all be wiped out. Therefore, they were extremely shocked when they saw Wang Hao holding a large lump of gold in his hands. Then comes the trouble. The Xandar star is the largest free market in the Milky Way, and even several surrounding galaxies, where intelligent creatures from all corners of the universe gather for trade. Definitely, there are also countless unscrupulous businessmen and vicious people spending money here and avoiding their enemies. After all, this is a free market, and the sphere of influence of those great empires that prohibit them from entering is different. Weak guy, hand over the gold in your hands. A tall, strange creature with a height of at least 2.5 meters came over. Tall body, thick and thin limbs, and a slightly ugly and stupid appearance from a human perspective. This is his first impression to Wang Hao et al. Miss his crew, he is our prey, and this piece of gold is also our trophy. Advertisement. Before Wang Hao could reply to the big, stupid alien, another voice sounded behind him, a group of 5 wearing some kind of combat uniforms. Their appearance was not much different from that of humans, except that there were more or less certain things. Parts of the red-skinned alien appeared there with a weapon in hand. And their guns were pointed at Wang Hao, as well as the stupid big man who spoke first. Wang Hao was just about to speak when he heard another voice. Hey, that's our stuff, do you hear me? If you don't want to die, get out of here. Wang Hao lowered his head and looked at the little thing holding the ion gun viciously in the distance, and Zhou Shuren standing next to him, 103 roaring. I'm Groot. Hey, Rocket. Banner beckoned, but in return the rockets shouted disdainfully. Shut up, idiot, your disgusting smile makes me want to throw up. If you want to live, hand over the gold. I'm Groot. He in this world doesn't know us. Wang Hao patted Banner on the shoulder and reminded him friendly. What they knew was Rocket and Groot from Earth too, but in this world, Rocket didn't even know Star-Lord and the others, and formed Guardians of Galaxy. Then the question is, since you all want this thing, I'd like to know, how are you going to get there? After chatting with Banner, Wang Hao looked at a group of villains surrounding him, and suddenly smiled. The gold lump in his hand is not big, only more than 1 meter in diameter. There is no way, Wang Hao does not intend to rub one for money every now and then, so he just rubs a big one to get more common currency. Boom. A gold ball with a diameter of 1 meter weighs 10 tons. Chapter 91 Punishment, additional 11 tenths. Hey, I put it here, whoever wants it, you can get it yourself. Wang Hao put the golden ball in the middle of the road, and then led a few people aside smiling. In order to accentuate the atmosphere, he specially turned on some lights to make this golden ball look more shining and charming. And who doesn't love sparkling gold? Boom. Rocket is not the first one. Although he has a big temper, he can be regarded as a smart man among this group of people, but most of the days when he was able to become a robber in the vast universe and the interstellar era are not very good at thinking. Oh, why are they still fighting? I still want to see them come to a weightlifting competition. Watching the scene bang 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 bang, all kinds of flames and light effects flying together, Wang Hao couldn't help shaking his head and sighing. At any rate, I have seen the battle between the Thanos Legion and the Avengers Alliance. It is really meaningless to fight a few people like this. Certainly. Finally, Wang Hao couldn't help but interjected. Have you forgotten your original intention? Are you here to fight? You are here to steal money. Now the money is there, but you are fighting. Are you still a robber? Are you still a robber? What about your professional ethics? What about your professionalism? I put the gold on the ground, but they didn't go to grab the gold. A bunch of people were bu there, they didn't take themselves seriously. But at this moment, shrouded in beams of light, the many robbers who were fixed in place looked terrified, looking at Wang Hao as if they saw a ghost. You, what are you? Let me go. The big fool struggled, but how could he break free from Wang Hao's shackles? The seemingly invisible light sealed every inch of his body in place, and with his simple brain, he couldn't figure out what Wang Hao was doing. It was done, so I could only roar in vain. Silence. Faced with the noise of these people, Wang Hao just let out a low cry. The invisible light was like a sharp sword, piercing their skin, causing them unbearable pain. Advertisement. On the road, the robbers turned into controlled people. This strange scene attracted more and more passers-by. Definitely, their eyes could not help but be attracted by the shining golden ball, but Wang Hao's strange behavior and the fate of those robbers made it clear that among the onlookers, there were no reckless people who continued to come out. Now, listen to me, go and pick it up. Whoever picks it up, I will let him live, otherwise, I will let you know what it means to regret the past. Wang Hao pointed to the golden ball under his feet. This thing was still lying on the ground, and the eyes of all the robbers returned to this thing. Call. Invisible's pressure suddenly disappeared, and Rocket looked at Wang Hao with a little surprise. After all, he was the more intelligent among the group of brainless guys. He knew that Wang Hao was not easy to mess with, so he didn't make a move this time. However, the moment that stupid big man got out of the shackles, he suddenly roared and rushed towards Wang Hao. His tall body, burly body, and the pounding sound of his striding steps all showed that his physical strength was great. How tough. Then, when his finger was about to touch Wang Hao by a centimeter, a ray of light fell from the sky and enveloped the silly man in the west. The fiery fire broke out, and in an instant, the big, silly man with a height of more than 2 meters turned into a cloud of flying ash and disappeared with the wind. You guys, it's time to hold the golden ball, one by one. Wang Hao looked at the other 5 robbers, then pointed to the golden ball under his feet, indicating that they can start. After watching the stupid man turn into ashes, the 5 robbers were already trembling with fright. They wanted to run away, but they didn't even see what Wang Hao did just now. I'm afraid that the moment they ran out, a light fell from the sky, and then they were gone. And since he couldn't run away, he could only hug the golden ball. It shouldn't be hard to pick up something that looks small, right? A robber thought so. Then he stepped forward first, opened his hands, squatted down, and then hugged the whole golden ball, exhaling and making a sound. Puff. Advertisement. Because of too much force, the robber accidentally farted, and the crowd booed, and a trace of embarrassment appeared on his face, but in the next moment, light fell from the sky on top of his head. Laugh. Under the high temperature of tens of thousands of degrees, not to mention people, even metals will vaporize in an instant. But this time, seeing his companion disappear before his eyes, the remaining 4 robbers suddenly collapsed. Seeing that big stupid man disappear, they still felt that they were monkeys trying to make an example of others, but when it was their turn to be evaporated directly, the feeling was not a warning but a fear. Continue. Wang Hao glanced over, and then pointed to one of the remaining 4 people. You come. The guy named shook his hands and looked at Wang Hao with devil-like eyes. He moved his feet, and finally walked tremblingly in front of the golden ball, stood where his companion was standing just now, stretched out his hands, struggling to pick up this seemingly small ball. What? His face was bursting with veins, his neck was flushed, and even his bones, of Zhao Qian's, were rattling, but this thing looked small, but it was a real creation of pure gold, which actually weighed more than 10 tons. And where does an ordinary alien robber come from with such supernatural power to lift such a creation? If he really has this ability but is still reduced to being a bandit, it can only be said that he definitely has a brain problem and can only beg for a living in this way. Fail. When the light fell, another person turned into flying ashes, fear spread, and now it was not just them, the robbers, who felt fear. The lively people around also felt deep fear. Because Wang Hao regards human life as worthless, and also because Wang Hao killed 3 people in a row without blinking an eye. In their hearts, Wang Hao suddenly became the most terrifying big devil. Definitely, for darkness, the sun is indeed the most terrifying big devil. Chapter 92 I am Groot, additional 12/10. Please subscribe for support. No, don't. Let me go. Let me go. I won't rob again. I won't dare again. The companions were tried one after another, so that the remaining few people were already fighting with each other, and they couldn't speak easily. Running and being unable to run away, lifting and being unable to lift up, isn't this a mortal situation? Oh, now I know I'm afraid. Have you ever thought about the feelings of those who were robbed by you? Let me see. Ha, the crime is not light. With so much blood on your hands, you come to beg me to let you go. Quote. Using the judgment power that was taught to Anna at the beginning, Wang Hao easily saw through the background of these gangsters. If it is an innocent person, he doesn't mind making an exception, and treats it as a joke. He is the sun god who loves life. But unfortunately, none of these people deserved him to do so. If you don't want to lift it, then go directly to die. Several rays of light fell, and the blazing flames instantly ended all sins, and their souls went to the world of the dead under the purifying flames to start their new lives. Then, only the inhuman existence 903 remained. Well, are you two going to lift it, or just die? Looking at a tree and a raccoon in front of them, Wang Hao's smile seemed somewhat scary to them. But Rocket and Groot, who can become guardians of galaxy to protect the innocent and the weak, are not the most vicious people. It's just two poor people reporting to each other to keep warm. Rocket is a failed product of biological transformation, and Groot is the only tree ant left in this universe. Both are the same helpless, can only rely on each other. But perhaps because of the tragic fate, the two aliens also have a pure and kind heart. Advertisement. This can be seen from the fact that Wang Hao did not see the sins on the two of them with eye of judgment. Although the tone was fierce, it was just Rocket's way of self-protection. After all, if such a little thing is not fierce, wouldn't everyone want to catch him as a pet and look down on him? I'm Groot. Regarding Wang Hao's question, before Rocket could speak, JLU came out directly. Oh, you want to try? Although Groot can only say this sentence over and over again, in fact, this sentence can be expressed in many ways according to different tones and subtle differences. Definitely, Wang Hao is using a higher level of spiritual power to understand the idea that this tree person wants to express. Groot. Rocket stretched out his little claws. He couldn't bear to see his companions being swallowed by the flames, but Wang Hao's power was beyond his estimation. He was a terrifying existence he had never met before. They had no choice. Who made them mess with the wrong people? I'm Groot. The tall tree man walked to the side of the gleaming golden ball. His eyes were serious. And everyone around has already focused their attention on Groot. But the eyes of passers-by are basically looking at Deadman. The tall and strong barbarian couldn't lift the golden ball just now. Although Groot is tall, he is not strong. The thin body and the dark green body structure give people a very fragile illusion. And Fu is more or less curious. Advertisement. Although they have seen it a few times on Earth too, all they saw was Groot in his teenage years, who was short in stature and looked even thinner than he is now. They were also curious about whether Groot, who looked different, could lift the golden ball. The truth will be revealed soon. Groot doesn't have any behaviors of squatting down, exhaling and opening his voice. He is different from humans or most intelligent creatures. He is more like a plant than an animal. I saw him stretching out his hands like weaving branches, and then the branches constantly extended and grew, covering the golden ball, as if putting a green protective sheath on the golden ball. Then, he didn't twist and lift his legs. Instead, he exerted force with his feet, and the gray rhizomes broke through the ground and penetrated into the soil. FK. Is this all right? Voices sounded one after another. No one had foreseen this scene. After the failure of the previous barbarian, some people had calculated the previous problems. After learning that this seemingly small golden ball, which can be embraced by both hands, weighs 10 tons, no one thought that these gangsters could lift it. And Wang Hao, who was able to throw it casually before, was able to subdue these guys easily, so it became a matter of course. But they never expected that this tree could do what such a strong savage couldn't do. Yes, Groot wrapped the golden ball with branches, then stood at attention and began to absorb nutrients from the soil to make his body start to grow, and this growth force actually made him hug the golden ball. As his legs grew thicker, the tree grew taller and taller with the golden ball, and soon became a lush one. Whether it's hugging or lifting, the strange tree figure Groot has fulfilled Wang Hao's request. Ever since, Wang Hao was not stingy, and nodded with a smile. Okay, I forgive you two for offending me. As for you, Xiaoshu, come down first, I have something to say to you. Chapter 93 Let the tree man plant trees, and raise some small animals in the forest. After taking the golden ball from Groot's arms, Wang Hao casually broke off a piece and threw it to Tony, and then put the rest into the Divine Kingdom space, planning to take it again when needed come out. I'm Groot. The extra branches rotted instantly, turned into fallen leaves and dead branches and fell to the ground. Groot returned to his normal file size, and stood in front of Wang Hao, looking at him with a puzzled expression on his face. Don't worry, let me see your body first. After throwing the gold to Tony, Wang Hao patted Groot, and a ray of divine power penetrated into it, exploring this strange plant life. It's not that Wang Hao is idle and boring, but there is something special about Groot that Wang Hao is interested in. Wang Hao has an exclusive kingdom of God. This kingdom of God is like the dark universe of Dormammu. It is an independent plane independent of the main universe, and it can also be called a multidimensional space. In that world, Wang Hao is the only master, and there, even holding the complete infinity gauntlet, it is impossible to defeat him. 18 After all, if the Infinity Gauntlet is alive, it is nothing more than mastering the 6 key and special powerful abilities of time and space, power, reality, mind and soul. But there are more than such powers in the universe, and the power of infinite gems also has an upper limit, but in the eyes of ordinary people, they are so powerful that they seem to be omnipotent. For example, if it is an existence of Wang Hao's level, snapping fingers to erase will not work. Because from the point of view of the single universe, the strength of the 6 gemstones is similar to that of Wang Hao, but they are more comprehensive and involve too many abilities. And there is such a multi-dimensional space of his own, so Wang Hao naturally wants to develop it, and strive to make it a beautiful and fun world. But it's a pity that in the kingdom of God, there are only his own body, the golden crow, Hoshin's body, Xandar, and Loki, the imprints of godly souls, and the aggregation of the wishes of many believers. To be more specific, there is a sun with a golden crow in the middle, a moon, a ball of fire, a supercomputer in the shape of the main body, and a ball of light. Advertisement. That's all there is to Wang Hao's kingdom of God. Just imagine, how empty would it be if there were only so many things in a world that was so huge that it was actually a miniature universe. This kind of emptiness made Wang Hao feel uninterested in trying to renovate it more than once. After all, once you start working, it will be an unprecedented huge project. Its complexity is no less than the creation of the world. It will take hours or months, and it will be too troublesome to calculate in years. Directly use yuanwei to come calculations are more or less the same. So Wang Hao has been wandering outside so far. Anyway, there is food and drink outside. When he is too busy to panic, he will think about enriching his kingdom of God. And what does this have to do with Groot? Well, that's because Groot is a tree, and in the process of lifting the golden ball just now, Wang Hao clearly noticed his use of life force. Therefore, he suddenly thought that it would be too troublesome to do it by himself, so he should hire someone to do it. Is there anyone in the entire universe better suited for the job of planting trees than Groot? Who in the entire universe dares to say that he is a better gardener than Groot? How about working for me? The content of the job is very simple: plant some flowers and plants. As for the salary, you can just tell me what you want. If you want money, I have money. If you want people, I have people. Immortality, infinite power, you just ask. Wang Hao smiled like a boss who has found an employee he can squeeze at will. As for his inquiry, there is no doubt about it. I'm Groot. Groot scratched his head. He has a high opinion of Wang Hao. After all, he is a tree and Wang Hao is the sun. Advertisement. Ever seen a tree that doesn't like the sun? That must be no. After all, the trees that don't like the sun are dead. But he didn't forget his little friend, so Wang Hao answered after looking back at Rocket. No problem. Take him with you. The salary I give you can afford it. And Wang Hao looked at the Rocket for a while, and didn't refuse. It's okay to keep some small animals in the woods, but the woods are really deserted. In this way, Wang Hao's buttocks followed the 2 younger brothers. After a farce ended, Wang Hao and others continued to wander in the market, but this time with a rocket pointing the way, they quickly found the big market and commercial street. The exotic delicacies and all kinds of exotic costumes quickly attracted the attention of several women, while Tony and Banner, who caught up with each other, lingered in front of various electrical stores and equipment stores. But this leisure time was soon interrupted. When Wang Hao and his group were preparing to have a lunch in an alien barbecue restaurant, one figure after another fell from the sky and surrounded the store. Afterwards, several guards wearing toilet heads and uniforms walked in with weapons in hand, and behind them was a group of people wearing higher-level uniforms. As soon as they entered the store, several people in high-level uniforms glanced at them, and finally landed on Wang Hao. That's right, it's him. According to the monitoring data, the person who rubbed the fireball with his hand and took out a lump of gold is him. It was the protector of Xandar, the Nova Corps known as the law enforcers of the universe, who came in a hurry. This time, except for one left behind headquarters, all the Nova Centurions who stayed on Xandar arrived, ready to deal with Xandar. The biggest crisis in the history of Doll Star. A terror with a supernova blast weapon. Chapter 94 Proposals to meet all needs. Trouble is coming, Tony muttered as he stuffed the alien barbecue into his mouth. Wang Hao looked up at the Nova Legion walking towards him, and suddenly laughed. What's the trouble? The biggest troublemaker here is you. Well, do I look like the kind of person who will cause trouble? Wang Hao big brother won't cause trouble. Xandar stuffed a piece of roast meat into Wang Hao's mouth and watched him chew and swallow with a happy smile on his face. Okay. Then let me solve this trouble. You continue to enjoy your lunch, and I will negotiate with these people. 1. Picking up the napkin and wiping his mouth, Tony stood up in front of everyone's eyes, and walked forward to meet the Nova Corps. Hello, what's the matter? Standing in front of the Centurion of the Nova Legion, Tony kept his eyes fixed, but his eyes kept looking. There was a pair of glasses on the bridge of his nose, and with the movement of his eyes, the detection camera collected all kinds of information, but his powerless behavior did not last long. Beep. With a soft sound, Tony's smart glasses were immediately scrapped, and some kind of high-frequency electromagnetic wave directly destroyed his equipment, while the person in front of him looked at him with contempt. I don't know who you are, but using this outdated technology to collect other people's information is a very rude and provocative act. Advertisement. The leader was a middle-aged man, with a face similar to human beings, standard clothing and sharp eyes. This was Tony's first impression. We are the Nova Corps, the Asgardians of this planet, outsiders. Let me tell you where you came from, and leave here immediately. A weapon on the level of a supernova explosion, whatever it is, as the Asgardians of Xandar, all the Nova Corps can do is ask the bearer to leave. There are hundreds of billions of lives on this planet. If such a weapon is out of control, it cannot be resisted by the Nova Corps. We are Earthlings, from the Chiwu fixed star system, but why do we have to leave? Isn't your place a free trade market? I can just pay for this thing. Tony took out the parking pass he had applied for with a depressed face. He was first ridiculed for being backward in technology, and then he was issued an eviction order. Anyone who changed it would definitely be depressed. Earth, I know there, can the civilizations there already leave their home galaxy? As for the reason why you are asked to leave, don't play dumb with me, the heart of the world has detected it, and the weapons you hold are too dangerous. Xandar Xing does not welcome people like you who come with dangerous weapons. In the understanding of the Nova Corps, Wang Hao and his party should have come here with weapons to trade. This is a relatively well-known free market in the universe, and arms trading is naturally inevitable, but such powerful weapons have already left the scope of arms trading. In order to ensure the safety of these hundreds of billions of lives, the Nova Corps had to issue an expulsion order. A powerful weapon. Tony, who missed a certain scene, scratched his head, but still looked at Wang Hao. The most powerful weapon we have here is you. What did you do just now? Although he didn't know what the powerful weapon that the Nova Corps was talking about was, Tony still had an intuition that it had something to do with Wang Hao. Advertisement. It's nothing, you just said you were short of money, so I rubbed a golden chocolate ball for you on the spot. Wang Hao smiled back. Rub it now. Tony always didn't understand Wang Hao's words, so he looked at Banner, who had the most common language with him in the tour group. My god just simulated a supernova explosion and synthesized the basic material into gold elements. Banner is indeed Tony's good friend, and he knew what Tony wanted to ask at a glance, but his answer made Tony froze on the spot. Quote. Simulation. Supernova explosion. Wow, such a wonderful scene, I was not there, what a pity. Quote. And over there, the Nova Corps, who was using a universal translator to translate the conversations of Tony and others, was also shocked by Na's words. Afterwards, all the Centurions looked at Wang Hao. Could it be that the powerful weapon they thought was made by this man? But how is this possible? Once a supernova explodes, several galaxies around it will be directly engulfed by the energy tide, and nothing will remain, either turning into slag and foam, or being engulfed and erupted to the corners of the universe. In terms of energy explosion, a supernova is already the limit that can be observed in the universe. After all, the entire energy of a fixed star explodes in a short period of time. What weapon can be more powerful than this? And how could such a thing be made by someone? But they didn't believe it was useless, because soon, their super artificial intelligence managed the power distribution of the entire Nova Corps, and to some extent, the heart of the world, which was very similar to Wang Hao's Ocean, suddenly sent them a message. After my analysis of the previous surveillance data, I have come to the conclusion that the previous supernova energy fluctuations were created by the man in front of me. Threat level, the highest level, recommended handling methods, friendly communication, and satisfaction if necessary all its needs. Chapter 95 Let Ocean eat and drink. When the heart of the world communicated with the Centurions of the Nova Corps, Wang Hao and Shanur immediately noticed the special mental fluctuation. The two looked at each other, and then Wang Hao focused his eyes. In the void, a strand of silk connecting every soldier of the Nova Corps entered his eyes. However, he soon discovered that this spiritual thread was not connected to the soldiers, but to the Nova badges on their bodies. No wonder the Nova Corps is the Green Lantern Corps of the Marvel Universe, isn't this the Lantern Ring? Seeing this scene with an extraordinary perspective, Wang Hao couldn't help complaining. Then, following those silk threads, Wang Hao's spiritual eyes traced all the way, and soon came to the King of Star Corps of Xandar Star. And in the Star Corps, a special machine is working. This is the body of the heart of the world. But I remember that its consciousness can be transferred, so is this just a server? The Nova Corps was destroyed 557 times in the comics, which led to the birth of new stars on the Earth. Yes, there is an Earth human in the Nova Corps. And his son got the badge and uniform after the Nova Corps was destroyed by Thanos, so he became a superhero Nova, and later joined the Avengers Alliance. And the main story of this superhero seems to be to rebuild the Nova Corps, and then it becomes involved in various level universe events. Advertisement. But no matter what, seeing such a thing, Wang Hao naturally had to take a closer look. Apart from anything else, Wang Hao's thinking directly invaded into the server of the heart of the world. This artificial intelligence, which is in charge of a huge new star energy and has self-awareness, shut down in an instant, and then Wang Hao was allowed to swim freely in it. Invade the database, search and record data, the computing power is insufficient, increase the energy supply, computing power upgrade. Activate the power reserve, the upgrade is completed. Increase the amount of calculation, the invasion is complete. According to Wang Hao's instructions, while he was exploring the heart of the world, Ocean also began to invade the database of the heart of the world. The Nova Corps has existed for a long time, and the Nova Corps is active in several nearby galaxies. Definitely, the most important range is the Milky Way. At first they were really just a pure Xandar Star defense organization, but relying on the convenience of Xandar Star, the cosmic free market, the Nova Corps developed very fast. Thus, tens of thousands of years ago, the Nova Corps became a legion of justice in level universe similar to the Green Lantern Corps next door, with strongholds all over the galaxy. Among them, a large amount of information was recorded and uploaded by them, and various civilizations, technologies, and knowledge were all uploaded and recorded here. Therefore, in addition to being a supercomputer and an artificial intelligence, the heart of the world is also a database with many rare materials. This database is a great supplement to Hoshin. As a young god, what he lacks most is the accumulation of various knowledge. Seeing the heart of the world at this moment is like a wife salivating when she sees a delicacy. He was also unceremonious, forcibly separated the small biba hand and closed legs that were blocked by the heart of the world, and violently entered it. Under Wang Hao's almost infinite energy supply, with the additional supplement of willing power and the support of continuously increasing computing power, this so-called heart of the world has become a captive of Hoshin, and all the secrets are fully revealed. Advertisement. In the invisible world, Wang Hao does whatever he wants, but in reality, Wang Hao let go of his divine charm and chatted with those new star centurions. The status of the Nova Corps in the Marvel Universe is equivalent to the Green Lantern Corps next door. Although the strength and style are not as good as the Green Lantern Corps, the characters and behavior patterns of the team members are the same. They are all just organizations that maintain the peace of the universe. So naturally, there are basically people with justice and light in this team. In other words, everyone is a hero, everyone is a superhero. So after they felt Wang Hao's deep breath of light, they basically fell directly. Being close, admiring, respecting, and trusting, it's like seeing Wang Hao's Phil Coulson and Nick Fury for the first time. They thought they were a major threat before, but in the blink of an eye, they regarded Wang Hao as a friend who could talk freely. After learning that Wang Hao and the others are here to travel, to experience anecdotes in the universe, as well as various customs, several centurions immediately made a decision to send a new star soldier to Wang Hao and the others as a guide. If Wang Hao and the others want to go to some other planet, they will also help Wang Hao find the most suitable person to lead the way. The conflict disappeared in invisible, and when the lunch was over and Wang Hao and others left, Hoshin also collected all the information that the heart of the world had accumulated for countless years, and had already begun to decompose and digest it. The technologies of various level universes and the information between various galaxies have greatly enriched Hoshin himself, and his strength in technology has jumped to the X of the high-level civilization of the universe. And because of his similarities with the heart of the world, he can completely develop an army stronger than the Nova Corps in a similar way to the heart of the world. If this continues to develop, it will be a bit like the Angel Legion of the Super God universe.